Chapter 2761, Counting on You, Suhan Go to Hell. Dong Shen's eyes glow with murderous intent. Boom. Dong Shen's killing intent exploded alongside his terrifying aura as he charged forward at Jian Wushuang. His power violently shook the void that he went past. He passed through the center of the battlefield to the other side. The two parties that were fighting fiercely retreated to the side in horror. Even the strongest fighter of all, Strange Old Tong, was extremely terrified of Dong Shen. Strange Old Tong saw Dong Shen skim past and he dared not to stop it. Dong Shen was not hindered in any way, so he appeared in front of Jian Wushuang in just a blink of an eye. Dong Shen knew very well that Jian Wushuang was the Sword Alliance leader and the mastermind of the event. Strange Old Tong, Grand Ultimate God Juexan, and the others were only taking orders from him. Even the corpse puppets were under Jian Wushuang's control. Dong Shen believed that as long as he defeated and killed Jian Wushuang, the nasty situation could be resolved easily. However, when Dong Shen waved the giant axe in his hand to have Jian Wushuang responded with a wave. Buzz. A dazzling stream of golden light lit up. A tall and burly figure emerged instantly. The tall and burly figure was holding a battle saber. He emanated a shocking wave of aura as his sword thrust forward for a brutal slash. The battle saber collided with Dong Shen's giant axe. Boom. The tall and burly figure was thrashed far away and Dong Shen too was slightly shaken up by the momentum. He regained his footing after staggered 3 steps back. Dong Shen raised his head to check out who the opponent was after he stabilized himself. Is that a gold-armored corpse puppet? Dong Shen's eyes shrank sharply in astonishment. The experts from the two camps that were engaged in a brawl around the battlefield were in a state of frenzy. That's a gold-armored corpse puppet. It turned out to be a gold-armored corpse puppet. Oh gosh, not only is he controlling a silver-armored corpse puppet and 2 bronze-armored corpse puppets, but he is also controlling a gold-armored corpse puppet. A gold-armored corpse puppet is equivalent to the combat power of a peak Grand Ultimate God. The experts from both camps were amazed. Peak Grand Ultimate Gods were scarce in Danyang continent. Each of the top forces had only one, whereby Crimson Stone Fort had Yin Suer and Yun Shan. Who would have thought Jian Wushuang, a primary-level Grand Ultimate God, would have a gold-armored corpse puppet at his beck and call? The experts finally knew why Jian Wushuang had so much confidence and that he dared to make an onslaught upon Divine Demon Sect. You have a gold-armored corpse puppet? Dong Shen stared wide-eyed at Jian Wushuang. Dong Shen, do you think I'm a fool? If I don't have any confidence in battling against you, I would never launch an attack on Divine Demon Sect. I got the gold-armored corpse puppet by chance a while ago. He happens to have reached the combat power of a peak Grand Ultimate God, so I shall let him be your opponent. Jian Wushuang sneered and immediately commanded the gold-armored corpse puppet next to him, kill him. The gold-armored corpse puppet did not hesitate. He instantly turned into a golden stream of light and attacked Dong Shen. The gold-armored corpse puppet perfectly displayed the combat power of a peak Grand Ultimate God. Dong Shen's expression was cold, his body rose and his breath of aura soared to a whole new level. Initially he only had a giant axe in one of his hands, but then, a giant axe appeared in his other hand. Each of his hands holding a giant axe, his combat power climbed to its limit. Attack! Dong Shen bellowed and strode out for a strike. An overwhelming gush of divine aura dispersed in the void and fought fiercely with the gold-armored corpse puppet. The fierce battle only took a moment and the two sides only collided several times. Swoosh! The gold-armored corpse puppet was smashed miserably. Then again the gold-armored corpse puppet had a tough corpse puppet figure. Though its divine body was smashed, it did not suffer much damage. The message was clear though that the gold-armored corpse puppet was no match for Dong Shen. Haha, you think a gold-armored corpse puppet can compete with me head-on? What a joke. Dong Shen laughed arrogantly, his breath of aura was horrifying. He was violent like a peerless brutish beast. The gold-armored corpse puppet had no wisdom and after pulling himself up to his feet, he launched another attack on Dong Shen. It did not take long before he was smashed again. The gold-armored corpse puppet was just a corpse puppet indeed. Although he has the combat power of a peak Grand Ultimate God and he knows how to use some of the techniques he practiced during his lifetime, his true combat power is only average among the peak Grand Ultimate Gods. Whereas Dong Shen, he has been a peak Grand Ultimate God for years. His divine power, techniques, and even his treasures and divine weapons are above the gold-armored corpse puppet. I'm not surprised that the gold-armored corpse puppet is not his match. Jian Wushuang squinted slightly while his gaze traveled around the battlefield. Dong Shun was temporarily occupied by the gold-armored corpse puppet and he could not extend help to his people. The Sword Alliance had an absolute advantage over the fight between the rest of the Grand Ultimate Gods, but it did not seem to be a huge advantage. The Sword Alliance's Grand Ultimate Gods faced difficulties to nab a chance to kill several of the Divine Demon Sect Grand Ultimate Gods. The situation would be nasty for Sword Alliance when Dong Shun defeated the gold-armored corpse puppet and joined the rest of the battle. The situation could in fact be very awful for Sword Alliance. It seems that I have to help them out, Jian Wushuang murmured as he roused the 7 Stars Secret Technique. As soon as the 7 Stars Secret Technique was performed, his realm moved up by another level and his divine power soared. Buzz, an immense amount of golden divine power began to condense behind him, and in the blink of an eye, a golden emperor who was 10,000 feet tall had appeared behind him. The golden emperor was extremely domineering. He stood tall and overlooked everything in the world down below. He was terrorizing. At the same time, on the surface of his body, a layer of dark golden armor slowly emerged. 7 Star Secret Technique, Divine God of Punishment and 9 Sparkle Star Armor had been performed at the same time. Jian Wushuang's combat power had risen to its limit. However, he did not immediately make a move. Instead, he flipped his hand and took out a bronze mirror. The bronze mirror was the Golden Feather Phantom Mirror. Jian Wushuang was using his mind to control Buzz. A large amount of golden light instantly diffused and covered the entire battlefield in front of him in a jiffy. In addition, the surging golden divine power ocean swept frantically, and on Jian Wushuang's dark golden armor over his body, a domain formed. A sky-shattering sword intent was produced when his 100,000 miles of perfect sword world came into place. Golden Light Domain, Prison of Punishment, Star Armor Domain, Sword World. The 4 domain oppression methods had been put to use all at one go. Jian Wushuang stood right at the core of the golden divine power while the golden emperor behind him overlooked everything in the world. Then Jian Wushuang slowly stretched out his palm and pumped his fist at the void ahead. 4 domain oppression methods superimposed. Oppression. Chapter 2762, Domain Oppression Wipeout. Rumble. The terrifying oppressive power of the 4 domains combined instantly went into effect. Back in the secret realm, Jian Wushuang at the same level of Cultivation realm had only used the Prison of Punishment, Star Armor Domain, and Sword World Domain oppression methods. The triple oppression was able to suppress Saber Master's strength by 20 to 30%. He had since then gained a new technique, the Golden Light Domain. The 4 domain oppression worked in a frenzied manner. It was working well, even on the many Divine Demon Sect Grand Ultimate Gods that were targeted. The oppressive effect was simply astonishing. This is... The Divine Demon Sect Grand Ultimate Gods were horrified. Oh no. My strength has been suppressed by 50%. A primary level Grand Ultimate God exclaimed. The primary level Grand Ultimate God's strength ranked at the bottom among the experts on the battlefield. Under the circumstance when his strength was suppressed by 50%, any high-level Grand Ultimate God from Sword Alliance could take the advantage to fire a shot at him, and that would be enough to seriously injure him if not kill him directly. I'm also being suppressed by as much as 30%. How can this domain be so powerful? The few Divine Demon Sect high-level Grand Ultimate Gods were also extremely furious. The primary level Grand Ultimate God's strength was suppressed by 50% whereas theirs by 30%. The strongest among all, the peak Grand Ultimate God, Dong Shun was also being suppressed by the domain oppression. He was shocked. Even my strength is being suppressed by 10%? Dong Shun cried in disbelief. The stronger the opponent's strength, the weaker the suppression effect. Jian Wushuang's domain oppression extended to the entire battlefield on the Divine Demon Sect experts, yet a peak Grand Ultimate God, Dong Shun was suppressed by nearly 10%. Does it mean that if Jian Wushuang put the oppression on me alone, my strength could possibly be suppressed by at least 20%? Just how strong is his domain oppression? The strength of Divine Demon Sect experts had been suppressed by the domain oppression, but none of the Sword Alliance experts was affected in any way. Swoosh. The gold-armored corpse puppet fired another shot and the battle saber in his hand slashed without mercy at the same level of power he imposed before. Dong Shun's expression sank, the giant axes in his hand fell off his grips. The two collided with each other and caused an explosion of terrifying power. As a result, the gold-armored corpse puppet was sent flying but Dong Shun only retreated a few steps back. Damn it. Dong Shun's gaze turned gloomy. He had an absolute advantage over the gold-armored corpse puppet but after his strength was suppressed by the domain oppression, he only had 90% of strength left at work. He could sense the difference when he fought with the gold-armored corpse puppet again. Though he still overpowered the gold-armored corpse puppet, it was not as easy as before. If that was what Dongshin was feeling, the other Divine Demon Sect Grand Ultimate Gods were in a worse situation. Attack. Kill them. Strange Old Tong, Grand Ultimate God Juexan, Strange Old Snake, Mr. Aning, Lan Junju and the corpse puppets were not affected in the slightest. They naturally would not miss the once-in-lifetime opportunity. They went all out trying to kill the Divine Demon Sect experts. The Divine Demon Sect Grand Ultimate Gods were in a mess. They flustered. In addition, after the domain oppression was in action, Jian Wushuang, who had been standing in the void outside the battlefield doing nothing, flipped his hand to summon his Blood Mountain sword. Let's start killing. Jian Wushuang wore a cold grin as he launched himself into the battlefield. He did not go to Dongshin. Dongshin was extremely powerful, so it was almost impossible for Jian Wushuang to kill him. Jian Wushuang's strategy was to just allow the gold-armored corpse puppet to keep Dongshin busy so he had no chance to free himself up and assist the other Divine Demon Sect Grand Ultimate Gods. Jian Wushuang was aiming for the Divine Demon Sect primary level and high-level Grand Ultimate Gods. His figure was zooming around like an agile phantom at his fastest speed. He appeared in the center of the battlefield and his gaze was immediately locked on a Divine Demon Sect primary level Grand Ultimate God right in front of him. Strange Old Snake, seize the opportunity. Jian Wushuang shouted. Strange Old Snake was startled and a little stunned. Jian Wushuang pointed with his finger and a gush of spacetime law power erupted. The Divine Demon Sect primary level Grand Ultimate God who was fleeing froze in place. His body and expression froze as if spacetime was at a complete standstill. The weird scene surprised Strange Old Snake and he immediately understood what Jian Wushuang was saying. He was the first Grand Ultimate God to be Jian Wushuang's follower and he once saw Jian Wushuang beheaded FOE. He was familiar with the method to free spacetime. Without any hesitation, Strange Old Snake took a step forward and fired a shot at lightning speed. The Divine Demon Sect primary level Grand Ultimate God who was trapped in the frozen spacetime was killed by Strange Old Snake before he could recover his senses. He was the first Grand Ultimate God who was slain. Jian Wushuang slashed his sword across the other side after helping Strange Old Snake to kill the first Grand Ultimate God. Mr. Aning, Jian Wushuang shouted. There were two primary-level Grand Ultimate Gods who were fighting against Mr. Aning but they did not survive Jian Wushuang's finger-pointing heavenly technique. Although Mr. Aning did not know what exactly was the technique, he took action and killed both of the primary-level Grand Ultimate Gods. In just an instant, without firing an attack at any of the opponents, Jian Wushuang had killed 3 primary-level Grand Ultimate Gods easily by cooperating with Strange Old Snake and Mr. Aning using the finger-pointing heavenly technique. That made the Divine Demon Sect experts who had been panicking because of the domain oppression even more petrified. Run. Run away quickly. It's weird. What exactly is that? 3 primary-level Grand Ultimate Gods were beheaded in just a jiffy. At this rate, I'm afraid that all of us will be beheaded soon. Quick. Run away from this domain. Sorrowful and terrified lamentation echoed in all directions. The Divine Demon Sect primary-level Grand Ultimate Gods had completely lost their intent to fight and they began fleeing for their lives. Bastards. Dongshin was furious when he saw what was happening but he did not stop any of them from leaving. He knew that Divine Demon Sect had lost the battle, it was a miserable defeat. Their losses would be greater if they insisted on carrying on fighting. The Sword Alliance experts and the corpse puppets were chasing after the Divine Demon Sect experts that were escaping. Jian Wushuang was among the crowd, his gaze once again landed on that one person. Chapter 2763. Vanquished. Jian Wushuang had his eyes on an old man with fiery red hair who looked like a ball of flame. The man was Fiery Cloud Demon Master. Fiery Cloud Demon Master was outstanding among the high-level Grand Ultimate Gods. Killing him was like killing 3 primary-level Grand Ultimate Gods. Grand Ultimate God Juexan. Jian Wushuang yelled. Grand Ultimate God Juexan was fighting against Fiery Cloud Demon Master and the silver-armored corpse puppet was nearby. Grand Ultimate God Juexan responded immediately to Jian Wushuang's cue. He turned around and saw Jian Wushuang had his finger out pointing at the distance. Buzz. The space-time power dispersed. He was again performing the finger-pointing heavenly technique. Damn it. It was to Fiery Cloud Demon Master dismay to find Jian Wushuang stretched out his hand and pointed toward him. Fiery Cloud Demon Master desperately wanted to dodge away. Unfortunately, a finger-pointing heavenly technique was an unusually overbearing technique. It had the spacetime around Fiery Cloud Demon Master under control, and running away was not an option available to him. In an instant, Fiery Cloud Demon Master and the spacetime around him became stagnated. However, Fiery Cloud Demon Master was extremely powerful. Jian Wushuang's finger-pointing heavenly technique had only managed to freeze him for a short moment. It was such a brief moment, yet Grand Ultimate God Zhu Xan and the silver-armored corpse puppet caught hold of it. Whoosh! A dazzling saber light instantly cut in a violent sweeping stroke on Fiery Cloud Demon Master's head. The silver-armored corpse puppet had bright silver light flashing. Its body transformed into an ancient ferocious beast and popped up behind Fiery Cloud Demon Master. Its palm wide opened like a fierce beast's claws, went down on Fiery Cloud Demon Master. The spacetime around Fiery Cloud Demon Master was back to normal, and he immediately noticed the two horrible attacking moves coming in both in front of and behind him. Shocked, Fiery Cloud Demon Master immediately ignited a conflagration, and at the same time both his arms stretched in opposite directions trying to resist the attacks targeting him. He had no time to perform fancy defensive moves, so he was relying on his palms and parrying off the attacks. Bang! Bang! Two loud booming sounds were heard, followed by Fiery Cloud Demon Master being shaken up. He felt a sweet taste in the mouth as he spouted out blood. His face turned pale and his breath of aura wilted instantly. He was obviously seriously injured. He was lucky, considering that he only suffered a serious injury instead of being beheaded. Having survived the destructive attacks, Fiery Cloud Demon Master desperately wanted to pull himself further away from Grand Ultimate God Zhu Xan and the silver-armored corpse puppet. Suddenly, a phantom-like figure appeared next to him unexpectedly. "You are." Fiery Cloud Demon Master spotted the figure from the corner of his eyes. The figure was wearing a golden robe and holding a long sword in his hand. Behind the figure was a 10,000 feet tall golden emperor. He was Jian Wushuang. *T. Fiery Cloud Demon Master went wide-eyed. Jian Wushuang brandished his sword. A beam of sword light emerged. The sword movement gave away a poignant and heartbreaking feeling. It was confounding yet mesmerizing to watch. Many experts who were fighting around the battlefield were attracted and fascinated by the sword light. They felt tipsy. It was slightly uncomfortable but dreamy and enjoyable. Spacetime Sword Technique, 7th Form, Enchanted. As Jian Wushuang improved his grasp on the spacetime law, his understanding of sword principles improved, and he had been seeking new breakthroughs in sword techniques. He had created the first 7 forms of spacetime sword technique, and the 7th form was a huge breakthrough. Every single new form after the 7th form was extremely difficult. Jian Wushuang has created the enchanted form for decades, and he had yet to create the 8th form. Though it was the very same 7th form he performed decades ago, he managed to make it even more fascinating and unusually hard to be resisted. Its speed and power had also been greatly improved. Fiery Cloud Demon Master's eyes showed that he was baffled by such mesmerizing and beautiful sword light, and he seemed like he had fallen for the magical moment. However, his mind was fully aware of the situation, and he frantically wanted to do something to resist the fascinating sword attack. He wanted to resist the attack so bad. However, he just got lucky with Grand Ultimate God Zhu Xan and the silver-armored corpse puppet, and he was running for his life. Jian Wushuang caught the perfect opportunity to fire the shot while sealing off the path Fiery Cloud Demon Master was retreating. Fiery Cloud Demon Master was horrified to find himself unable to keep up with the speed of Jian Wushuang's sword. He knew he was too slow compared with that sword movement. He had no time to resist the sword attack. Finally, chuck! The poignant sword light passed through Fiery Cloud Demon Master. He was covered with conflagration, but as the sword light passed by, the flame was put out instantly. His eyes dimmed as his breath of aura diminished. He was killed in just a jiffy. What a pity, Fiery Cloud Demon Master. If you did not choose to join Divine Demon Sect and wait for a little longer for me to send you an invitation, you would not die. You will also get a Huangji Golden Pill to attempt to break through to the peak Grand Ultimate God realm. Jian Wushuang sighed when he looked at the Fiery Cloud Demon Master's body. While Jian Wushuang slew Fiery Cloud Demon Master, the battles around him were also leaning in favor of one party. Most of the Divine Demon Sect Grand Ultimate Gods were defeated, and they were fleeing for their lives. Their strength was suppressed by the domain oppression and the terrifying golden prison around them. They had to first escape the golden prison that was extremely difficult for them. In just a few moments, in addition to the 3 primary level Grand Ultimate Gods and Fiery Cloud Demon Master who were killed with the help of Jian Wushuang, a high-level Grand Ultimate God and a primary-level Grand Ultimate God were killed. 6 out of 12 Grand Ultimate Gods, including Dong Shen, who turned up from Divine Demon Sect, were beheaded. That was half of the manpower. And the killing was obviously still going on. Without warning, boom. A terrifying roar sounded abruptly. Far ahead up front, a hole was made through the extremely strong golden prison under the impact of majestic power, and the hole was growing larger. Dense cracks appeared quickly all over the golden prison, spreading like a spider web. Finally, the golden prison collapsed due to the impact. After that, a burly figure appeared. Chapter 2764. Namwu Palace Master. He was a bulky middle-aged man who wore a loose and luxurious robe with a dignified expression on his face. His hands were behind his back while he stood in the void and oversaw everything from the peak with cold eyes. Although all of those who stood in front of him were considered strong grand ultimate gods, they were no different from ordinary experts in the bulky middle-aged man's opinion. The most noticeable part about him was the divine power being released from him. The wave of divine power unleashed was really too strong. Although he was also a peak grand ultimate god, he was much stronger when compared to Dongshin. Their superiority was distinguishable simply by his wave of divine power without the necessity for both of them to fight it out, as the bulky middle-aged man was far stronger than Dongshin. This is Namwu Palace Master? Experts who were fighting furiously from the Sword Alliance and Divine Demon Sect were surprised when they saw that bulky middle-aged man. It's Namwu Palace Master, the current publicly recognized #1 expert in the Danyang Holy Domain. He's actually here? The golden prison has been broken. Let's run. Quick. The remaining Divine Demon Sect's grand ultimate gods grabbed the opportunity to immediately escape into their surroundings at the same time the others were stunned. Jian Wushuang and the others had also stopped their attacks while looking over to the bulky middle-aged man with a serious look in their eyes. As the saying goes, a big tree was a good shelter. The saying applies to a well-known person too. Namwu Palace Master was after all the incumbent publicly acknowledged first-ranked expert in the Danyang Holy Domain. He was ranked first among the ultimate gods in Danyang Holy Domain. That fact could be noticeable from either the divine power he unleashed, which was one whole level higher than Dongshin, or his actions of breaking Jian Wushuang's golden prison with a simple attack. In short, he was an extremely strong person who nobody dared to ignore. Nanwu, Dongshin standing in the void had also seen Namwu Palace Master's arrival. However, the gold-armored corpse puppet was still blocking him. Dongshin, this is the first time I've seen the Divine Demon Sect be in such an embarrassing situation. A first-rated force badly defeated a pinnacle force such as yourself, said Namwu Palace Master in a relaxed manner with his cold yet filled with a strong hint of dignity in his voice. Humph, it's easy for you to critique when you're at the sidelines. Do you think the Sword Alliance is merely a first-rated force? Dongshin asked with a solemn expression on his face. That's true. Namwu Palace Master slightly nodded. His purpose for rushing over was because he received news that the Sword Alliance had wiped out the Heavenly Blood Alliance in a thunderous manner and almost caused all the experts from the Divine Demon Sect to come forth. His original purpose was to observe the Divine Demon Sect's true combat power, but did not expect to see such a great and almost unbelievable change in the battle. It was true that the Divine Demon Sect had sent every member they had with a total of 12 Grand Ultimate Gods, and even Dongshin personally took action. However, the results were them being heavily defeated by the Sword Alliance in direct combat. In addition, he had been staying in a nearby void and was able to see the ongoing fierce battle in the Golden Prison, as his soul power was sufficiently strong to ignore the Golden Prison's blockade. Therefore, he was able to observe everything happening on the battlefield. The Sword Alliance's grand ultimate god-level combat power had greatly surprised even himself. The combination of all 5 grand ultimate gods that consisted of Strange Old Tong Ju Xn Old Snake, and Ing Lan Junju, and even Jian Wushuang coupled together with a gold-armored corpse puppet, a silver-armored corpse puppet, and 2 bronze-armored corpse puppets. Such grand ultimate god-level combat power was really horrifying. Together with Jian Wushuang's suppressive domains that covered the entire area, only the Crimson Stone Fort and his Nanwu Palace among the 5 pinnacle forces in Danyang continent were capable of defending against such combat power. Sword Alliance. Namwu Palace Master's facial expression slightly darkened when he looked over at Jian Wushuang with his sharp eyes. I've heard about how strong Alliance Master Suhan of the Sword Alliance was. You're undeniably a pinnacle genius that killed FOE, a primary level Grand Ultimate God, had on while you were still a peak Heaven Ultimate God. Now that I've seen you today, you really are exceptional, said Namwu Palace Master with a hint of certainty in his words. He saw the battle clearly with his own eyes. Although Jian Wushuang was only a primary level Grand Ultimate God and had not previously taken any action, his motions were capable of completely changing the situation. He started with activating his domains to suppress the entire battlefield and constricted every expert under the Divine Demon Sect on the battlefield. His subsequent actions then killed 4 Grand Ultimate Gods in one go while working together with the Sword Alliance's experts such that even the Fiery Cloud Demon Master was killed by him. Although such power was not a threat to him, it was enough to catch his attention. Jian Wushuang smiled humbly and asked, "Namwu Palace Master, I've been looking forward to meeting you. What happened today is between the Sword Alliance and Divine Demon Sect. It has nothing to do with the Nanwu Palace, and I know that the Sword Alliance had never caused trouble with Nanwu Palace. I wonder why Nanwu Palace Master is here today?" Nanwu Palace Master was silent for a short while before speaking. "Alliance Master Su Han, it's true there are no grudges between Nanwu Palace and Sword Alliance. The Nanwu Palace shouldn't have gotten involved in what's going on today. However, the Divine Demon Sect is one of the 5 pinnacle forces in the Danyang continent and carries great influence. It'll affect the pinnacle force's position once losses are too great and will have a great impact on the situation in the Danyang continent. At that moment, the balance that we've tried so hard to maintain will be completely disrupted and might lead the Danyang continent into a chaotic state. Hence, I hope Alliance Master Su Han can stop whatever that's going on to give Nanwu Palace some face. What do you think?" Nanwu Palace Master spoke in a gentle voice. Although he sounded casual, he gave off the suppressive aura of someone superior. Jian Wushuang and all the Sword Alliance's experts were able to feel extremely strong pressure coming from Nanwu Palace Master. Jian Wushuang knew that if he refused to stop and continued the battle, Nanwu Palace Master would personally take action. At that moment, battling Nanwu Palace Master was not something Jian Wushuang was completely confident about. "I don't dare object now that Nanwu Palace Master has personally made this request. This battle shall end here. However, the Sword Alliance has taken over Heavenly Blood Alliance and nobody should ask us to relinquish it. I hope Nanwu Palace Master can understand this," said Jian Wushuang. "That's for sure. The forces in the Danyang continent won't stop fighting against one another. Understandably, the Sword Alliance is powerful enough to take over 1 or 2 forces and control some territories. I believe Sect Master Dongshin also thinks so too." Nanwu Palace Master glanced at Dongshin. Dongshin had an extremely darkened facial expression. He was not reconciled with the ongoings at that moment, but there was nothing he could do even if he was unhappy about it. He could see the situation in front of him. The Sword Alliance not weaker than the Divine Demon Sect when comparing their total strength, it was stronger instead. Chapter 2765, Almighty Rise. The Divine Demon Sect was definitely in a disadvantageous position when they encountered the Sword Alliance even during their prime. On the contrary, they would be directly struck down. After that huge battle, the Divine Demon Sect alone had lost 6 Grand Ultimate Gods, and when combined with those 3 from the Heavenly Blood Alliance that the Sword Alliance killed, they had lost a total of 9 Grand Ultimate Gods. It could be said that they suffered a great loss. They would have to consider themselves fortunate if the Sword Alliance did not continue taking action against the Divine Demon Sect under such circumstances. It was a joke for the Divine Demon Sect to think of retaliating against the Sword Alliance to snatch back the territories that once belonged to the Heavenly Blood Alliance and avenge their fallen experts. He even understood that if Nanwu Palace Master did not take action in time, the Divine Demon Sect would have lost even more experts. "Alliance Master Su Han, he'll make a move first since everything has been resolved," said Nanwu Palace Master before turning to leave. Dongshin and the Divine Demon Sect's remaining Grand Ultimate Gods had dark expressions on their faces, especially Dongshin, who was glancing at Jian Wushuang and the others coldly. Although he did not speak, Jian Wushuang could spot the torrential grudge in his look. After a few moments upon Nanwu Palace Master and the others' departure, Has anybody suffered losses?" Jian Wushuang looked at the Grand Ultimate Gods around him. Old Tong Ju Xan, Old Snake, and Ing and Lan Junju looked at each other with smiles on their faces. "Alliance Master Su Han, there aren't many people who I admire throughout my entire life, but you have my admiration today. The Divine Demon Sect had been dominating the Danyang continent for so many years and never suffered any losses even during their head-on fights against either the Crimson Stone Fort or Nanwu Palace. However, the Divine Demon Sect had suffered such tremendous losses in the hands of Alliance Master Su Han and lost 9 Grand Ultimate Gods. I really admire your abilities," said Old Tong. Previously, he had a huge fallout with the Divine Demon Sect, hence he was the happiest upon seeing the Divine Demon Sect suffering great losses. Apart from holding such strong suppressing domains, you also had a gold-armored corpse puppet, a silver-armored corpse puppet, and 2 bronze-armored corpse puppets. No wonder the Alliance Master was so confident to go into a head-on fight against the Divine Demon Sect. It turns out you really can go against the Divine Demon Sect. Zhu Xin and Ing Lan Junju, and the others were happily chit-chatting among themselves. They were truly quite nervous and worried before their fight with the Divine Demon Sect. It was the Divine Demon Sect who had never been overthrown for years after all. However, they had never expected they would defeat the Divine Demon Sect head-on with such overwhelming means. They never even dared to think about it before that moment. Jian Wushuang only smiled gently when he heard that. Alliance Master, I don't think Dong Shun will just let this go based on his facial expression when he left, said Old Snake with a deep voice. Jian Wushuang slightly smiled. I know. Although the Divine Demon Sect is one of the Danyang continent's pinnacle forces with quite a stable foundation with many grand ultimate gods, we killed 9 of them. How can the Divine Demon Sect put down such a great loss? However, the Sword Alliance isn't afraid of them regardless of the grudges the Divine Demon Sect bears against us. In addition, the losses they suffer this time are so great that it's enough to affect their foundation and position. The Divine Demon Sect will be struggling after this and might even fall into a position with no hope of making a comeback if they aren't careful. In the end, there are many forces and experts who lust after the Divine Demon Sect's position or have grudges against them. Jian Wushuang knew clearly that the Divine Demon Sect must have accumulated quite many grudges throughout the years as one of the pinnacle forces. For example, Old Tong previously had a great grudge against the Divine Demon Sect. There were certainly many experts like Old Tong in the Danyang continent who had grudges against the Divine Demon Sect. Despite the many experts' grudges, the Divine Demon Sect did not suffer any losses to their strength as they had many experts on top of also having Dong Shun personally overlooking matters, which was enough to shock everyone. However, the Divine Demon Sect had lost 9 grand ultimate gods all at once that day. It was not easy to recover from such a great loss. It was a great opportunity for those experts or forces that held grudges against the Divine Demon Sect to overturn them. It's a waste we did not completely stop Dong Shun in this battle or the Divine Demon Sect would have been done for, thought Jian Wushuang to himself. Dong Shun was the backbone and stabilizing force of the Divine Demon Sect. Even though the Divine Demon Sect lost a huge number of grand ultimate gods, they were still qualified to be considered as a pinnacle force as long as Dong Shun was still alive. However, the Divine Demon Sect would be easily overturned if Dong Shun died as they would lack the highest combat power deterrence. However, Jian Wushuang also understood it was not so easy to kill a peak grand ultimate god, at least he knew that he was unable to do so at the moment. In the battle just moments ago, he only managed to control the gold-armored corpse puppet to do its best at pestering Dong Shun under the suppressive assistance of the domains. It's normal for the Divine Demon Sect to be unhappy, but the appearance of Nanwu Palace Master is beyond my expectation, said Jian Wushuang with a frown. He was prepared to face the Divine Demon Sect but did not expect to face Nanwu Palace. Nanwu Palace Master's appearance was indeed unexpected. Luckily, the Nanwu Palace did not directly take action against the Sword Alliance and only asked us to stop to protect the Danyang continent's balance. It looks like Nanwu Palace doesn't want to cause a big stir and place high importance toward the balance of forces in the Danyang continent. Jian Wushuang slightly narrowed his eyes and smirked weirdly. However, Nanwu Palace Master isn't aware that even without the Sword Alliance continuing our actions, it'll be difficult for the Divine Demon Sect to stabilize their current situation based on the losses they suffered. The situation between forces in the Danyang continent will still enter a chaotic period. It isn't only because the Divine Demon Sect is unable to stabilize their current situation with the losses they suffered, but the most important matter is the strong uprising of the Sword Alliance. The Sword Alliance is having a strong uprising this time and will surely turn the Danyang continent upside down. The messier the Danyang continent becomes, the better it is for me. Old Tong, Zhu Xin, and the others who stood beside Jian Wushuang glanced at each other. They did not know Jian Wushuang's true aim but had their pride as they had promised to fight for the Sword Alliance for 1,000 years. They would do their best no matter which forces the Sword Alliance went against during that period. The Sword Alliance had a great victory in the battle that day as they had wiped out the Divine Demon Sect in a face-to-face battle and killed 9 of their grand ultimate gods. Once that news spread, they believed it would shake the entire Danyang continent and cause a wave of perilous reaction. The Sword Alliance's prestige would reach new heights within a short time. Unsurprisingly, it would lead to the birth of a new pinnacle force. Chapter 2766, A Great Shock. Jian Wushuang and his people previously wiped out the Heavenly Blood Alliance with overwhelming strength and killed 3 grand ultimate gods including the Heavenly Blood Alliance Master. The Divine Demon Sect was furious and attacked with their full might. Namwu Palace Master was not the only one who received news about the occurrence. Several other pinnacle forces and many first-rated forces, second-rated forces, and independent experts had also learned about it. There were many witnesses during the head-on fight between Divine Demon Sect and Sword Alliance, which resulted in an immediate spread of the news. As Jianwu Shuang and the others had anticipated, the news caused a stir in the entire Danyang continent once it spread. The forces and many experts in the Danyang continent were stunned. The Divine Demon Sect sent their full force of 12 Grand Ultimate Gods, being personally led by the Divine Demon Sect Master Dongshin, to clash head-on with the Sword Alliance, but was defeated. 6 of their Grand Ultimate Gods were decapitated on the spot by the Sword Alliance? How's that possible? Is this a joke? After all, they are one of the pinnacle forces. This is inaccurate, it's inaccurate. I know about the Sword Alliance, and they had just been founded decades ago. The Alliance Master is Su Han, who's only a primary level Grand Ultimate God. Although he's a genius and killed FOE in a head-on battle while still a Heaven Ultimate God, it was rumored that his success had a certain level of embellishment in it. How could it be possible for the Sword Alliance to directly go against the Divine Demon Sect and defeat them? It's impossible. I think it's impossible too. Different forces and experts felt it was impossible when they received the news, with no one believing it. However, many saw the battle, with some of them being extremely strong experts. There were even people who purposely recorded the battle with image tokens. Although these people did not know what happened to the Divine Demon Sect's Grand Ultimate Gods after they were trapped in the Golden Prison, the onlookers still recorded the subsequent events after Namwu Palace Master destroyed the Golden Prison. Those image tokens soon spread widely across the Danyang continent. The experts could only accept the truth regardless of how unbelievable it was with the image tokens' existences. It's true? The Sword Alliance had truly defeated the Divine Demon Sect? Oh my god, since when did strange old Tong Ju Xian, Old Snake, and Ing and Lan Junju join the Sword Alliance? And since when did Ju Xian, Old Snake, and Ing make a breakthrough to the high-level Grand Ultimate God realm? Look at those figures in the recording. Those are corpse puppets. Those 2 bronze-armored corpse puppets have the combat power of ordinary high-level Grand Ultimate Gods, while the silver-armored corpse puppet has a peak high-level Grand Ultimate God strength. However, those images even showed Alliance Master Su Han taking out a gold-armored corpse puppet which had the combat power of a peak Grand Ultimate God. No wonder they're capable of defeating the Divine Demon Sect in a face-to-face battle. The Sword Alliance's upper echelons have such high combat power? All questions were thrown out the window when they saw the occurrence from those mirror images. The Sword Alliance's battle array was horrifying and truly had the capability of directly defeating the Divine Demon Sect. At that moment, all of them understood that the Divine Demon Sect's defeat was justifiable, and their remaining Grand Ultimate Gods might not be able to leave peacefully were it not for Namwu Palace Master's interference at the end. Apart from that, 2 other matters arose after the news was verified. Firstly, the Divine Demon Sect was badly affected by the battle. The Divine Demon Sect had lost a total of 9 Grand Ultimate Gods in the battle when taking into consideration of those 3 Heavenly Blood Alliance's Grand Ultimate Gods that were killed. It had to be highlighted that the Divine Demon Sect had a limited number of Grand Ultimate Gods. Losing 9 of them meant they were left with a small number, which drastically decreased their upper echelon's combat power. Such events had brought excitement to many forces in the Danyang continent. Some of the experts who had grudges against the Divine Demon Sect were also eager to take action. In the past, the Divine Demon Sect was extremely strong and acted extremely domineeringly, hence those experts dared not offend them even though they had triggered many of those experts. However, the Divine Demon Sect had suffered such a huge change at that moment, and those experts would not forget to hit them with another blow. Secondly, the Sword Alliance had directly defeated the Divine Demon Sect. The Sword Alliance's overpowering strength had shocked those forces and experts. Hence a rumor had been started in the Danyang continent that the Sword Alliance would be replacing the Divine Demon Sect and become a new pinnacle force. Apart from that, even if the Divine Demon Sect was able to maintain itself due to Dongshin's support and their profound heritage, the Sword Alliance's rise was certain. It was because the Sword Alliance already had the strength of a pinnacle force. Although the Sword Alliance did not have a true peak Grand Ultimate God, they had a gold-armored corpse puppet supporting them as their highest-level combat power. Such a fact was further verified with their capabilities of directly defeating the Divine Demon Sect during the Grand Ultimate God level battle. As for those lower-level members being led by the Sword Alliance, Every force had received news that the Sword Alliance also had an army known as the Divine Sword Army, consisted of 500 Heaven Ultimate Gods that was formed at a great cost and having extremely high combat powers. It could be said that Jianwu had already possessed sufficient strength. It was estimated that the difference between the current Sword Alliance and a pinnacle force was having sufficient territories and profound heritages. However, obsolete strength was required to obtain territories and profound heritage, but that was not an issue as one could also plunder others for them. Therefore, the Sword Alliance undisputedly would become a new pinnacle force in the Danyang continent. In a dimly lit hall. There was no lighting or any ornaments but only a huge round table in the middle. At that moment, 3 obscure figures formed around the round table. Those 3 obscure figures were only consciousness incarnations and not the real bodies, as they did not have any power but were only capable of conversing. Why isn't Dongshin here? An evil voice resounded from an evil-looking old man who was completely covered under a black robe. The evil-looking elder had green eyes and looked extremely ghastly. However, he had a great identity. There were 5 pinnacle forces in the Danyang continent, and that evil-looking elder was the Life and Death Tower Master. The Divine Demon sect had met with such a huge change and suffered losing 9 grand ultimate gods alongside a great blow to their prestige. Many forces and experts now have their eyes fixated on the Divine Demon sect. Hence Dongshin is extremely busy doing his Divine Demon sect master responsibilities right now. How could he have the time to come over here? A gentle voice could be heard from the only woman among those 3 people. She was an old lady with gray hair and had spots all over her face, looking extremely worn out. The Dongfang clan masters had always been women. The gray-haired old lady was the clan master of Dongfang clan at that moment. Chapter 2767. Outer Realm. Apart from those 2, a bulky middle-aged man with a strict face was also sitting by the round table. The bulky middle-aged man in a loose yet expensive-looking robe was the publicly recognized most powerful expert in the Danyang continent, Nanwu Palace Master. Nanwu Palace Master, Life and Death Tower Master, and the Dongfang Clan Master. 3 of the 5 pinnacle forces leaders in the Danyang continent had gathered there. Honorable leaders, I'm sure you know the reason I invited you here today? Nanwu Palace Master looked at the others around him. The evil-looking elder, the Life and Death Tower Master, laughed weirdly. Of course, we definitely need to revise our plans now that such a huge incident has occurred. The gray-haired old lady, also known as the Dongfang Clan Master, asked. I never imagined the Divine Demon sect was so weak. How could they be defeated in a head-on battle against the Sword Alliance, an alliance that had just been formed recently? Don't underestimate the Sword Alliance. Both of you would be foolish to think that it was a pure coincidence for the Sword Alliance to defeat the Divine Demon sect, said Nanwu Palace Master in a low voice. Nanwu, what do you mean by this? The Life and Death Tower Master looked at him. Nanwu, you also took action during the battle and knew most about the Sword Alliance. Tell us about them if you know, said Dongfang Clan Master. It's true that I saw the entire battle with my own eyes. The Sword Alliance isn't weak and is truly slightly stronger than the Divine Demon sect. I'm guessing that only Nanwu Palace is stronger than the Sword Alliance among our 4 pinnacle forces, while both of your forces are almost at a similar level to the Sword Alliance, said Nanwu Palace Master. Are they really that strong? The Life and Death Tower Master and Dongfang Clan Master's facial expressions darkened. They saw from the mirror images that the Sword Alliance had quite strong combat powers. However, it was quite unconvincing to say the Sword Alliance was well matched with both their forces. Nanwu Palace Master said with a serious tone, you only saw images of the battle but did not participate in it. The Sword Alliance had such an upper hand in the battle isn't only because the Sword Alliance has a group of grand ultimate gods with high combat power. Another major reason is the Sword Alliance Master Su-Han. Don't underestimate Su-Han. Although he only has the power of a primary level grand ultimate god, he has extremely strong skills and exceptionally strong domains. Many of the Divine Demon sect's grand ultimate gods were greatly suppressed when it was activated, causing their combat power to be greatly reduced. Even a peak grand ultimate god such as Dongshin was greatly suppressed. These are the results of his domains when covering the entire battlefield. If he focused on only suppressing an individual, the domain suppression would be even stronger. The Life and Death Tower Master and Dongfang Clan Master were stunned when they heard that. They realized that Nanwu Palace Master had a high evaluation of Su-Han's domains. Su-Han's skills and domain control must be extremely good for the Nanwu Palace Master to give him such high praise. Su-Han's skills and the Sword Alliance's strength are only some of the factors. The real issue we should be afraid of is the Sword Alliance's background, said Nanwu Palace Master all of a sudden. Background? The Life and Death Tower Master and Dongfang Clan Master were stunned. The Sword Alliance had risen at such a fast pace within only a couple of decades, while Su Han is just a primary-level Grand Ultimate God who isn't really strong. How can he create such a strong Sword Alliance capable of competing against the pinnacle forces by himself in such a short time? Nanwu Palace Master seriously raised his doubts. You mean that Su Han has people secretly supporting him? Dongfang Clan Master slightly narrowed her eyes. That's right. According to the news I received, the Sword Alliance already started building its own army when it was founded. Apart from that, the reason their strength grew so profoundly is that the Sword Alliance has a large number of resources. They gave much better offers, 2 to 3 times more compared to those offered by ordinary first-rated forces, to the experts they gathered. The reason so many experts are willing to join the Sword Alliance is because of their exceptional offers, and is the reason the Sword Alliance manages to grow rapidly within such a short period. However, where did all these resources come from? It can't be Su Han who obtained them by himself, right? Nanwu Palace Master asked. The Life and Death Tower Master and Dongfang Clan Master also nodded in agreement after hearing Nanwu Palace Master's conjunction. It was true that Su Han only had the strength of an ordinary peak heaven ultimate god when he first gained a reputation in the Danyang continent. The number of resources he owned when compared to his strength obviously meant somebody was secretly supporting him. However, who could be capable, or should we say, who would spend so much resources to raise the Sword Alliance to become a pinnacle force? Could it be the Crimson Stone Fort? The Life and Death Tower Master had a cold look in his eyes. However, Nanwu Palace Master directly shook his head. It can't be the Crimson Stone Fort. If it's the Crimson Stone Fort during its peak period when they had the Crimson Stone Saints supporting them, they might still be capable of supporting the rise of a pinnacle force. However, I'm sure you know of the current situation in the Crimson Stone Fort. They have such serious internal fights amongst their factions and suffer a huge consumption of assorted resources. Even Yun Shan, the person who's in charge of various resources in the Crimson Stone Fort and the most wealthy among them all, isn't capable of supporting the rise of a pinnacle force. It's difficult for them to even support a single first-rated force. Apart from that, all of us know the temperament of strange old Tong Juexan and Ing and Lan Junju. The current Crimson Stone Fort isn't capable of coming up with better terms to move them. However, these people are obeying Sword Alliance's Su Han right now. The Dongfang Clan Master suddenly asked, if it isn't the Crimson Stone Fort, who else is capable of supporting the Sword Alliance? Could it be somebody from the Outer Realm? Outer Realm? The Life and Death Tower Master also narrowed his eyes. Nanwu Palace Master's facial expression turned cold. Nobody among the local forces in the Danyang Holy Domain is capable of raising a pinnacle force. There's a huge possibility that the Sword Alliance's supporter is a force from the Outer Realm. The Life and Death Tower Master and Dongfang Clan Master's facial expression darkened after they heard that. The Outer Realm. The Danyang Holy Domain was only one of the many realms within the 9 realms of Golden Crow. There were 8 other realms around them on top of the Danyang Holy Domain. Among those 8 realms, some of the realms were bigger and wider than the Danyang Holy Domain, which naturally meant they had more experts. Even the weakest realm was comparable to the Danyang Holy Domain, and there were without a doubt some extremely strong forces in those other 8 realms. The remaining 8 realms differ from the Danyang Holy Domain as they still have undying saints supporting them. The forces they controlled were extremely powerful. Chapter 2768. Silent Acquiescence. It was not difficult for forces from the other 8 realms who had undying saints supporting them to raise a pinnacle force in the Danyang Holy Domain. If a pinnacle force from the Outer Realm is secretly supporting the Sword Alliance is true, the Sword Alliance is of great threat to us. The Life and Death Tower Master had a cold look in his eyes. Yes, the Danyang Holy Domain has been at an absolute disadvantage since Crimson Stone Saint's passing. The current infiltration of Outer Realm's pinnacle forces must be aimed at taking over the entire Danyang Holy Domain. We should take action right now and wipe out the Sword Alliance while it still hasn't stabilized its position to be safe, said the Dongfang Clan Master. Nanwu Palace Master frowned. It's true that we should immediately take action under normal circumstances. However, matters are different right now. I've received news that the Crimson Stone Fort recently has been rather eventful and all the factions are preparing to take action. It seems Saber Master, who once controlled one of the factions, has fallen. The Life and Death Tower Master said, I've also heard about this, but it's just a rumor with no way for us to confirm if Saber Master had truly fallen. However, the situation in Crimson Stone Fort has indeed been rather eventful recently. It looks like Crimson Stone Fort's factions will completely fall out with a really huge battle about to happen. Their huge battle is the opportunity we've been longing for a long time. Namwu Palace Master had a cold expression on his face. That's why it's unsuitable for us to take action right now. It can be said that the Sword Alliance has risen at the perfect timing, as it happens to be when there will be some huge shifts happening in the Crimson Stone Fort. We cannot focus on the Sword Alliance if we aim to complete our long-term goals of completely overthrowing the Crimson Stone Fort. Both the Life and Death Tower Master and Dongfang Clan Master's brows slightly furrowed. It was true that the Sword Alliance had appeared at the perfect timing. The Sword Alliance appeared when the opportunity they craved for since long ago finally arrived. Under such circumstances, they had to focus themselves on the Crimson Stone Fort and use all the time they had to prepare themselves so that they could obtain their heart's desires when the huge changes occurred in the Crimson Stone Fort. However, if the three of them unite and go against the Sword Alliance at that moment, putting aside the fact that the Sword Alliance was supported by Outer Realm forces which already made it difficult to take action against them, they would also need to expose many of their last resorts, which greatly reduced their strength if they really planned to overthrow the Sword Alliance. In addition, Crimson Stone Fort would have more opportunities to prepare themselves. As such, it would mean that they would not have the absolute upper hand when going against the Crimson Stone Fort thereafter. There's nothing we can do, as we can only either overthrow the Crimson Stone Fort or the Sword Alliance. I suggest we take action against the Crimson Stone Fort first. The Life and Death Tower Master slightly narrowed his eyes as he spoke in a low voice. In the end, the Sword Alliance is still a young force and their total strength won't be as domineeringly strong. Even if they are secretly supported by Outer Realm forces, it won't be so easy for those outside forces to infiltrate us, as this is still the Danyang Holy Domain. The most they can do is supply some resources. The Sword Alliance has grown to its current capacity, which makes it almost impossible for them to further drastically increase their strength. All we need to do is send someone to keep an eye on the Sword Alliance's movements and stay alert. I too agree. It won't be too late to take action against the Sword Alliance after everything. The most important matter right now is to go against the Crimson Stone Fort. The three of us have been waiting and laying low for so many years just for such a great opportunity to overthrow the Crimson Stone Fort. Now that the opportunity is here, we cannot get distracted by a mere Sword Alliance, added Dongfang Clan Master with a serious tone. Namwu, what do you think? Both the Life and Death Tower Master and Dongfang Clan Master looked over at Namwu Palace Master. Namwu Palace Master smiled softly. They'll support it since both of you have made your decision. According to the news Namwu Palace received, the current Crimson Stone Fort is a tightened bowstring that any slight movement will trigger into a full-blown battle. It won't be long before that happens, and the entire Crimson Stone Fort will be in complete chaos at that time. I'm sure it'll only take several decades or perhaps even less than 40 years for a great battle to completely erupt in the Crimson Stone Fort. We shall put up with the Sword Alliance during this period and unite to wipe them out after we've gotten rid of the Crimson Stone Fort. All right. Both the Life and Death Tower Master and Dongfang Clan Master also seriously nodded. The three of them came to a mutual understanding after the brief discussion and slowly left the place. The Sword Alliance's rise was inevitable. It was proven that the Sword Alliance had become a pinnacle force following Namwu Palace, Life and Death Tower and Dongfang Clan's silence. The Sword Alliance then started sweeping through the lands and easily gained control over the many territories that once belonged to the Heavenly Blood Alliance. Several forces that were located in between were also ruthlessly wiped out by the Sword Alliance at the same time to unite the Sword Alliance's original territory and those that belonged to the Heavenly Blood Alliance. The Sword Alliance's territory grew enormously after those forces' territories had fallen into the Sword Alliance's hands and soon already surpassed the strength of a first-rated force and were infinitely close to becoming a pinnacle force. In the Sword Alliance headquarters, the Sword Alliance had already taken over the Heavenly Blood Alliance and several second-rated forces' territories. However, Namwu Palace, Life and Death Tower and Dongfang Clan didn't react at all. It seems like those three families have acknowledged the rise of the Sword Alliance and won't take action against us before they wipe out Crimson Stone Fort. Jian Wushuang smiled coldly. He was able to guess those three pinnacle forces' plans. In the end, he had been keeping tabs with Yin Sewer and Palace Keeper Si Zhen, allowing him to understand Crimson Stone Fort's current situation well. Those three forces were focusing their energy on the Crimson Stone Fort and could not spare any time for him. It was exactly what the Sword Alliance wanted. Announce my orders. We no longer need to be scrupulous toward anybody starting today. Presumptuously wipe out the surrounding forces and take over as many forces as possible. As for those pinnacle forces, don't be afraid if their experts come forward. You're allowed to directly fight them off if possible, as I allow small fights, but remember not to corner them, ordered Jianwu. Yes, master. The Sword Alliance experts obediently received his order. Xiao Tiexin asked, Master, although the Sword Alliance can be counted as a pinnacle force right now, we haven't stabilized ourselves. Won't it be too over the top if we act so presumptuously? Those pinnacle forces won't allow us to expand so scrupulously, right? Jianwu said, I'm sure they don't want to see that happen, but they definitely won't stop us. From the moment they decided to not take action against the Sword Alliance means they have silently acknowledged the Sword Alliance can take over a huge piece of territory and become a pinnacle force. What I'm doing right now is pressuring these pinnacle forces. Chapter 2769, Got the Divine Elixir Pills Pressure. Xiao Tiexin was puzzled. I want Nanwu Palace, Life and Death Tower and Dongfang Clan, and the already worn Divine Demon Sect to know that my Sword Alliance is rising at an amazing speed and I have great ambitions to annex and expand. I want all of the top forces to feel that kind of pressure that I will take over them at just any time, Jianwu explained. But why? Xiao Tiexin was still puzzled. Haha, it's very useful. You just can't see it yet. Anyway, you just do this according to my instructions. Jianwu said with a smile. Yes. Xiao Tiexin stopped asking any more questions and quickly left. Jianwu sat there alone with a gleam in his eyes. Yin Suer, I have put enough pressure on those top forces. It's up to you now. Although I will go all out to help you, you gotta show me what you've got, a thing or two. You can't blame me if you're lousy yourself, Jianwu mumbled. Jianwu had done enough. He had severely ravaged Divine Demon Sect, grew Sword Alliance and scared the other three top forces stiff. The top forces were chary of acting rashly. Under those circumstances, Yin Suer should have had enough time for preparation. But Sword Alliance expanded and grew its influence rapidly according to Jianwu plans and order. It was like a hungry beast subjugating the forces around them. Even the top forces were not spared. They were affected by Sword Alliance to a certain extent and they have had contentions. Fortunately, the altercation did not lead to nasty fights. In the long run, Sword Alliance had asserted a certain amount of pressure on those top forces. Life and Death Tower, Dongfang Clan, the badly hit Divine Demon Sect and even Nanwu Palace felt tremendous pressure from Sword Alliance. That area of growth did not require Jianwu to put in any more effort. While his followers were at work carrying out his plans, he had been working diligently on improving his strength and perception of the laws and sword principles. He made colossal progress with the 2 Fengtian scrolls in his hand. 3 years went past in a blink of an eye. In the past 3 years, Sword Alliance had had frequent activities. On the other hand, the other top forces in Danyang continent, including Crimson Stone Fort, seemed to be extremely calm. Everyone knew that something was brewing under the seemingly calm surface. One day, Jinyi, the divine elixir pills you wanted has arrived. Palace Keeper Si Zhen sent a message. So soon. Jianwu was over the moon when he got the news. 3 years ago, he handed the Holy Treasure level battle saber sword to Yin Suer and he asked for 50,000 divine elixir pills in return. He thought that Yin Suer would need a longer time to deal with a Holy Treasure level battle saber, but it took only 3 years for Yin Suer to sell it off. Jianwu immediately set off for Holy Palace. When he arrived at Sacred Palace, Jianwu only spotted Palace Keeper Si Zhen. There was no sight of Yin Suer. Then again, it was normal. Tensions were brewing within the Crimson Stone Fort factions during the period of time and all the factions were doing their best to be prepared. Yin Suer would have had a lot to deal with. Haha, Alliance Master Su Han, it's been a long time. Palace Keeper Si Zhen let out a hearty laugh when he saw Jianwu. Palace Keeper Si Zhen, don't tease me, Jianwu said with a smile. I dare not tease you. You are now the Sword Alliance Master, whereby the Sword Alliance is the top force in Danyang continents. Even Divine Demon Sect has been defeated. I believe that even Fort Master can't afford to be smug and complacent around your achievement, Palace Keeper Si Zhen said so as to butter up Jianwu. Then Palace Keeper Si Zhen got serious and took out an interspatial ring. Jinyi, this is given to you by the Fort Master. Your Holy Treasure level battle sword was sold to an undying saint for 65,000 divine elixir pills. According to what you've asked before, Fort Master has given you 50,000 divine elixir pills and the price for your damaged pinnacle heavenly treasure battle armor. We've rounded it up to 53,000 divine elixir pills for you here. Jian Wushuang took the interspatial ring and he made a careful count of the content with his soul power before nodding. Please help me to thank Fort Master for these. Fort Master is grateful for you. Palace Keeper Sijin smiled. Earlier, Fort Master had earned a small fortune and benefits from the 230 caddies royal blood gem you gave her. This time around, you have given her a greater amount of benefits with an extra of 15,000 divine elixir pills. They came in handy to provide sufficient resources. Major changes are about to take place in Crimson Stone Fort, and the Fort Master might not be so sure of her preparation without the blessing. From what I've heard, you are saying that your Fort Master is now very sure of how to deal with the situation? Jian Wushuang smiled. I can't say that we're very sure, but there is still a chance around 30 to 40%. This is just from the Fort Master's management. If Jian Yi and our Sword Alliance are willing to help each other at that time, then there is at least a certainty of preservation. 70% of it, said Palace Keeper Sijin. 30 to 40% is not a small amount of assurance. As for Sword Alliance, I will do my best to help out, Jian Wushuang said. That's good to hear. Palace Keeper Sijin was delighted. By the way, what's going on in Crimson Stone Fort? Jian Wushuang asked casually. Fortunately, although news came out that Saber Master has died, this piece of news has not been confirmed. Therefore, although there were some activities going on in the various factions of Crimson Stone Fort, they had yet to take any serious action. The factions are quietly accumulating and preparing their strength and power. Once the fuse is lighted, Crimson Stone Fort will be completely chaotic and wars will break out. No matter who wins the battle, Crimson Stone Fort would completely solve the never-ending disputes, said Palace Keeper Sijin. Then I will go off first. If something happens in Crimson Stone Fort, just send me a message, Jian Wushuang said. Okay. Palace Keeper Sijin nodded slightly. Jian Wushuang left immediately. After returning to Sword Alliance, he immediately found a secret chamber and began to cultivate in seclusion. 53,000 divine holy pills added up with the few divine holy pills obtained and accumulated by Saber Master before, it should be enough to make my strength even greater. Jian Wushuang clasped his hands tight expectantly. Let's start. Immediately, Jian Wushuang closed his eyes and began to refine those divine elixir pills. Chapter 2770. 25 years' time began to pass slowly. The addition of 53,000 divine elixir pills to the 60,000 divine elixir pills Jian Wushuang had gotten from Saber Master and the others made up to an immense bulk of divine elixir pills. It took an extremely long period of time to consume and refine all of those divine elixir pills. When all was done, Jian Wushuang's cultivation realm advanced another level as he wished. He had broken through from the high-level Grand Ultimate God realm to peak Grand Ultimate God realm. His overall strength had skyrocketed again. After the breakthrough of his cultivation realm, Jian Wushuang continued to spend time in seclusion because there had been no major changes in Crimson Stone Fort. With 2 Fengtian scrolls in his hand, his understanding of the laws and sword principles was progressing at an expeditious speed. Another 25 years had passed in a flash. In those 25 years, Sword Alliance had completely evolved into a top force in Danyang continent, and they did that by overpowering another top force. The Sword Alliance enjoyed a high status, surpassing Divine Demon Sect. In fact, Life and Death Tower and Dongfang Clan seemed to be a rank inferior to Sword Alliance. In the middle of a huge manor, the golden robed Jian Wushuang stood with a sword in his hand above the clearing. His right hand was brandishing his sword. Bus, 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 bus. Multiple beams of sword light were produced. Each of those sword lights was extremely poignant and beautiful. The hazy sword light was fascinating to watch. The sword light could have easily captivated the opponent if he was fighting against someone. Spacetime Sword Technique, 7th Form, Enchanted. Every single sword movement Jian Wushuang cast was from the enchanted form, but it had improved a great deal in power and speed as compared to his form more than 20 years ago. It was difficult to catch Jian Wushuang's shadow whenever he was performing the enchanted form. Perhaps, not even the high-level Grand Ultimate God could catch him. After a long time, Jian Wushuang finally stopped his hand's movements and the fascinating and beautiful sword light dissipated. Jian Wushuang retracted the sword and stood still, but his brows were furrowed. After more than 20 years of meditation, I have made considerable progress in my understanding of the space-time law and sword principles. I have also been continuously improving the enchanted form, and it has almost been perfected by me, yet I can't create the 8th form of space-time sword technique. Jian Wushuang felt a little helpless. Understanding of the laws grew more difficult in progress. Likewise with the understanding of sword principles. It was more difficult to create stronger tricks for sword techniques as one made progress. The seventh form was relatively easy when he created it, but after so many years he still failed to create the eighth form. I probably can't rely on the understanding of the laws and sword principles to create the eighth form of sword technique. I might have to spar with opponents and gain insights from the battle, Jian Wushuang muttered. Suddenly, buzz. A tyrannical aura exploded in the surrounding void without any warning. However, it only stayed around for a very short time. Although it only appeared for a brief moment, Jian Wushuang noticed it because he was sensitive to his surroundings and he was so close to the source of the breath of aura. This breath of aura. The surprised Jian Wushuang immediately went toward the source of that breath of aura. Jian Wushuang saw a sloppy old man with messy hair walking out of a secret chamber as soon as he arrived at the spot. The sloppy old man was beaming wide. Ah! Strange old Tong, congratulations. Jian Wushuang immediately stepped forward and laughed heartily. Strange old Tong was smiling when he heard Jian Wushuang. I didn't want to be too ostentatious and I immediately broke it off, but I didn't expect that Alliance Master Su Han would still be alerted. How can I not feel the unique breath of aura of a peak Grand Ultimate God? Jian Wushuang smiled. Peak Grand Ultimate God. Jian Wushuang was shocked because he noticed the breath of aura of a peak Grand Ultimate God. And that breath of aura was from Strange Old Tong who stood before him. Strange Old Tong has stayed in the high-level Grand Ultimate God realm for a long time, during which he attempted to break through many times but he fell short every single time. Strange Old Tong finally broke through and set foot on the peak Grand Ultimate God realm he dreamed of. He had made extensive preparation and most importantly he had the Huangji Golden Pill given by Jian Wushuang. The Huangji Golden Pill was coveted by so many Grand Ultimate Gods for obvious reasons. Jian Wushuang received the 5 Huangji Golden Pills from the secret realm and gave them to the 5 Grand Ultimate Gods he recruited. Among them, Grand Ultimate God Zhu Xian, Strange Old Snake, Mr. Ning achieved breakthroughs through the Huangji Golden Pills. Lan Junzhu failed, unfortunately. Strange Old Tong did not consume the Huangji Golden Pill right after he got hold of it. Instead, he spent a lot of time preparing carefully. He had been preparing for more than 10 years and 5 years ago, he finally began to cultivate in seclusion. 5 years had passed and when Strange Old Tong appeared again, he had finally completed his mission. I thought that I would stop at the high-level Grand Ultimate God all my life and not be able to move any further, but now it seems that I'm lucky. Of course, this is mainly because of the Huangji Golden Pill that you gave to me. Otherwise, I would probably fail once again. I'll always remember your kindness, Strange Old Tong solemnly said. You've been polite. I used the Huangji Golden Pill to recruit you, Strange Old Tong. I give you the Huangji Golden Pill and you will fight for Sword Alliance for 1,000 years. This is a fair deal, how can it be called a kind act? Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Anyway, I was able to break through all because of you. In addition, you were the reason the Divine Demon sect was severely ravaged. I won't say anything more. In short, for the rest of these 1,000 years, I will do whatever you ask for as long as it doesn't go against my principles, said Strange Old Tong. Haha, it is nice to hear this from you. Jian Wushuang smiled, but he was quite happy. Strange Old Tong Lao was ranked top among the high-level Grand Ultimate Gods and he was extremely powerful. He could face off 1 or 2 ordinary peak Grand Ultimate Gods. After he had finally made a breakthrough, his strength had skyrocketed. He was estimated to be rather powerful among the many peak Grand Ultimate Gods. Chapter 2771. Man in blood-colored robe. Jian Wushuang believed that Strange Old Tong's strength was definitely stronger than that of the gold-armored corpse puppet he was controlling and that his attacking power was stronger than Divine Demon Sect Master, Dong Shen. Earlier when Sword Alliance and Divine Demon Sect were fighting, Dong Shen was a handful for Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang deployed the gold-armored corpse puppet and used his domain oppression methods, yet he barely suppressed Dong Shen's combat capability. Anyone with peak Grand Ultimate God's highest combat power could bring great pressure to Sword Alliance. However, Strange Old Tong is definitely not weak among the peak Grand Ultimate Gods. In fact, he is quite a powerful one. Although the gold-armored corpse puppet is a corpse puppet, it has the combat power of a peak Grand Ultimate God. In that case, Sword Alliance has 2 manpower of the highest combat power. And I could count as one too, right? Jian Wushuang scratched his nose. He did not display his full potential during the fight with Divine Demon Sect, but his combat power was definitely at the level of a high-level Grand Ultimate God and he was ranked one of the top. After all, he killed Saber Master in the Secret Realm. Decades had passed since then and his cultivation realm had risen to another level as well as his understanding of laws and sword principles and his methods. He possessed the combat power of a peak grand ultimate god. Sword Alliance would have had 3 cultivators with the most powerful combat powers. That was a scary fact. The 4 top forces, Nanwu Palace, Life and Death Tower, Divine Demon Sect and Dongfang Clan, each had only one highest combat power, a peak grand ultimate god. Even Crimson Stone Fort had only 2 under different factions, but Sword Alliance had 3 peak grand ultimate god levels of combat power. Strange old Tong, I have been working on an interesting chess game. If you are free, how about you come and have a look? Jian Wushuang asked with a smile. Chess game? Strange old Tong was surprised, but he followed Jian Wushuang back to the manor nonetheless. Under a big tree in the manor, Jian Wushuang placed a huge chess board on the stone table, and there were many chess pieces on the chessboard. However, those chess pieces were only in one color, which was black. This chess game, Strange old Tong began to delve into the game. After some time he raised his brows slightly. This game is a test. Every single chess piece is a test to be solved one after another? And the method of cracking these tests seems to be purely relying on sword techniques? Whoa, you noticed it at a glance. This chess game was created by a cultivator from my hometown. It is called Daluo Star Game. I tried to crack it when I was younger and I reaped a lot of benefit from it. Now, my understanding of sword principles has already surpassed that cultivator from my hometown, so I have recreated this game. Every chess piece contains a sword move to work on. Over the years, I have been working on this game and I have also gained a lot of benefit from it. Jian Wushuang said with a smile. I'm not good at sword techniques, but you got me interested. I might try my hands on these. Strange old Tong smiled and he started to crack the game. It was true that Strange old Tong was not good at sword techniques, but he had a high level of understanding of principles and that was helpful across many areas. He managed to crack a few steps, but soon he fell into a bottleneck and was stuck. Jian Wushuang sat by the side, just smiling and watching Strange old Tong. Suddenly, swoosh. A figure appeared beside Jian Wushuang. It was Xiao Tiexin, Jian Wushuang's maid. Shiner, what's the matter? Jian Wushuang asked. Jian Wushuang had been cultivating in seclusion for years and Xiao Tiexin was the one dealing with all the management matters in Sword Alliance. Jian Wushuang trusted Xiao Tiexin fully. Master, someone is asking to meet you outside the Sword Castle, said Xiao Tiexin. Who? Jian Wushuang sounded uninterested. I don't know, he doesn't want to tell us his name and identity, but he has shown his breadth of aura. He is a high-level grand ultimate god, quite a powerful one, Xiao Tiexin said. A powerful high-level grand ultimate god, but unwilling to reveal his name and identity, is here to see me? Jian Wushuang raised his brows and then smiled. Bring him in. Yes. Xiao Tiexin responded and went off to bring the visitor in. Strange old Tong, I guess I'm the only one who knows that you have broken through to the peak grand ultimate god realm. Don't expose your strength for the time being and disguise your breadth of aura, Jian Wushuang said. Strange old Tong breaking through to the peak grand ultimate god realm was equivalent to Sword Alliance acquired another ace in the hole. Naturally, Jian Wushuang would not want the secret advantage to be known just yet, especially when things were at a delicate stage. Sure, but I'm not good with the disguise, so I might be able to cheat those high-level grand ultimate gods but not the powerful peak grand ultimate gods, said Strange old Tong. Then don't meet with those peak grand ultimate gods. You will stay in Sword Alliance during this time, and I believe that no peak grand ultimate god will be so boring to come here and investigate your cultivation realm, said Jian Wushuang. That's true. Strange old Tong smiled and quickly masked his breath of aura. Jian Wushuang and Strange old Tong waited quietly in the manor, and it did not take long for Xiao Tiexin to lead a man in Amon in a blood-colored robe. The man in a blood-colored robe was well covered up. His face was completely shrouded under the blood-colored robe and no one could see his appearance clearly. Indeed, he had a tyrannical breath of aura. He was one of the best among the high-level grand ultimate god, probably no inferior to Strange old Tong before his breakthrough. He is... Jian Wushuang and Strange old Tong both stared quizzically at the person. The blood-colored robe man arrived in front of Jian Wushuang and Strange old Tong, but he did not immediately speak. His exposed deep-set eyes glanced at Xiao Tiexin next to him. Exinair, you may go first. Jian Wushuang waved his hand. Yes. Xiao Tiexin nodded and left instantly. I don't know who you are, please show me who you are, Jian Wushuang said indifferently. The man in a blood-colored robe stood in front of Jian Wushuang and looked around to confirm that there was no one else around. Then he slowly removed his blood-colored robe, revealing an extremely strong and sturdy figure. He was dark and he had strong muscles. The surface of his divine body was covered with faint blood-colored thunderbolts. He raised his head slightly to show an extremely cold and somewhat domineering face. A faint blood-colored thunderbolt flashed in each of his pupils. Jian Wushuang and Strange Old Tong were both taken aback to see who it was. Blood Thunder King. Chapter 2772. Blood Thunder King. Jian Wushuang and Strange Old Tong were surprised to see the person who came forth. Blood Thunder King. He was the leader of one of the 3 strongest factions in Crimson Stone Fort. Not only was he a terrifying high-level Grand Ultimate God himself, but he also controlled the strongest Crimson Stone official army in Danyang Continent, and there were more than 10 known Grand Ultimate Gods who reported to him. Blood Thunder King's faction was able to compete with the Yin Suer and Yunshan factions and keep them in check within the Crimson Stone Fort. What made him make the trip to see Jian Wushuang in person? After a brief moment of shock, Jian Wushuang recovered his senses. Unexpectedly, the famous Blood Thunder King would come forth to my small and insignificant Sword Alliance today. You've graced Sword Alliance with your presence. Jian Wushuang stood up and said politely. Alliance Master Su Han must be joking. If Sword Alliance is just a small and insignificant organization, then the various forces on Danyang Continent may be nothing at all. Blood Thunder King chuckled. Jian Wushuang smiled slightly and waved. Please sit down. Blood Thunder King sat down at the stone table in front of him. Jian Wushuang waved his hand to keep the chessboard on the stone table, and then he took out some fruit and wine. Blood Thunder King felt very at home. He grabbed a fruit with his big hand and ate it. Jian Wushuang looked at Blood Thunder King playfully. Blood Thunder King, you are here in person today. What's the matter? I'm here to discuss something important with you, Alliance Master Su Han. Blood Thunder King wiped his mouth and said, You want to discuss something important with me? Jian Wushuang's expression remained unchanged. Alliance Master Su Han, as the leader of Sword Alliance, I believe you are aware of the situation in Danyang Continent during this period of time? Blood Thunder King made the opening remark. Of course. Jian Wushuang smiled. Danyang Continent is very calm during this time except for Sword Alliance, who has been discontented. The situation has not changed much from before. Very calm? Alliance Master Su Han, are you trying to fool around with little kids? Blood Thunder King sneered. The current Danyang Continent is like a raging storm. Drastic changes may happen at any time, and the source of this storm is Crimson Stone Fort. Don't you know, Alliance Master Su Han? What can I do if I knew about it? It's your own business no matter what happens in Crimson Stone Fort. What does it have to do with Sword Alliance? Jian Wushuang commented calmly, like he was uninterested. It has nothing to do with Sword Alliance? I don't think so. Blood Thunder King wore a strange smile. What do you mean? Jian Wushuang looked at Blood Thunder King. Alliance Master Su Han, you knew that there are many factions in Crimson Stone Fort and we are fighting incessantly. Among these factions, the factions led by Crimson Stone Fort Master Yin Suer and Grand Elder Yunshan are very powerful. Blood Thunder King said. Jian Wushuang interrupted Blood Thunder King. Really? As far as I know, there are 3 powerful factions in Crimson Stone Fort. Besides the factions led by Yin Suer and Yunshan, Blood Thunder King yourself is leading another faction that is not weak at all. You can keep the other 2 major factions in check. Keep them in check? Blood Thunder King smiled bitterly. If it's the usual small fights and conflicts, indeed my faction does not fear them. However, if a big battle breaks out, then my faction is considered weak. After all, the battle mainly relies on the combat power of Grand Ultimate Gods. The Heaven Ultimate Gods can't do much at all. Well, they can't do much in the Crimson Stone official army, which is under my control. And in terms of the combat power of Grand Ultimate Gods, I have 10 of them, and it seems like a lot of them under my command, but both Yin Suer and Yunshan have accumulated power in the dark for a long time. They are much better than me. I don't know for sure how much stronger Yin Suer and Yunshan are at this stage. Besides, they are both peak Grand Ultimate Gods with the strongest combat power. They are not people whom I can afford to challenge. Therefore, if a battle breaks out, my faction is far behind the 2 of them. Therefore, they would be the 2 people who would reintegrate the factions if there is a major change in Crimson Stone Fort. However, no matter which of them is in charge, it's probably not a good thing for Sword Alliance. Why do you think so? Jian Wushuang smiled and looked at the Blood Thunder King. It's very simple. It's all because of your Sword Alliance background. Blood Thunder King smiled strangely. Alliance Master Su Han, don't pretend like you're confused now. If I guess it right, you came from the Outer Realm? You probably have support from the Outer Realm all this while. How do you know? Jian Wushuang frowned. He thought Blood Thunder King was funny to make the assumption. Why would the Outer Realm support him? What a joke. Jian Wushuang had always been working purely on his own. Yin Suer probably gave him a little help, but he gave Yin Suer much more in return. Blood Thunder King had obviously misunderstood Jian Wushuang. It's very simple. The rise of the Sword Alliance is too fast and you all have too many resources. How could you possibly be able to own so many resources? There must be a big force behind you. I believe no one in the entire Danyang Holy Domain has the ability to support a top force like yours. Naturally, only those outer realms with an undying saint in their management have the ability to support you. Blood Thunder King smiled. He was pleased with himself. Well, I admit that I do have the support of someone behind me, but what does it have to do with the internal conflicts in Crimson Stone Fort? Jian Wushuang asked. Of course it matters. Blood Thunder King smiled. Alliance Master Su Han, if I can guess your background right, I believe Yin Suer, Yun Shan and the other top forces like Nanwu Palace, Life and Death Tower and Dongfang Clan can do the same. Those in power would naturally be disgusted and repulsive at you who have the support from an external force. The reason why they haven't acted on your Sword Alliance right now is that the timing is wrong. Crimson Stone Fort will be ending our years of internal conflicts real soon and the top forces like Nanwu Palace are coveting us. That's why no one has time for Sword Alliance at this point in time. But once the battle is over and Crimson Stone Fort has calmed down, Crimson Stone Fort will immediately attack you Sword Alliance no matter who is in charge. Even the top forces like Nanwu Palace would join hands to go against you. At that instance, unless the undying saint behind you comes out in person, your Sword Alliance will have no ability to resist and you'd be expelled from the Danyang Holy Domain. Well, that's true. Jian Wushuang nodded pretentiously. But now there is a great opportunity in front of you, Alliance Master Su Han. You can change the fate of Sword Alliance completely. I wonder if you're willing to grab the opportunity? Blood Thunder King smiled strangely. Chapter 2773, Join Hands. I don't know what Blood Thunder King you are referring to as a great opportunity? Jian Wushuang asked curiously. Join hands with me. Blood Thunder King suggested. With the current situation in Sword Alliance, if you are willing to join hands with me, the two of us would rise to be stronger than Yin Suer or Yun Shan. By then I will be the ruler of Crimson Stone Fort and I will try my best to help Sword Alliance to sweep down the top forces like Nanwu Palace, Life and Death Tower, Divine Demon Sect and Dongfang Clan. From then on, this huge Danyang Holy Domain will be the both of us. What do you think? You want me to join hands with you? Jian Wushuang laughed mockingly. There can't be two tigers in a mountain. After you have complete control of Crimson Stone Fort, will you be willing to share Danyang Holy Domain with Sword Alliance? Of course I am willing. At that time, if the Undying Saint behind you agrees, I can even bring Crimson Stone Fort and surrender to the Undying Saint, said Blood Thunder King. Jian Wushuang's pupils shrank. Not only that he's willing to jointly manage Danyang Holy Domain, but he's also willing to surrender Crimson Stone Fort? Blood Thunder King, why should I trust you? If you betray me afterward, what should I do? Jian Wushuang looked at Blood Thunder King. It's very simple. No matter how I'm just a high-level grand ultimate god myself. Even if I dare to betray you, I don't have the courage to betray the Undying Saint behind you. I don't think he'll be able to live much longer if I were to get on his wrong side, said Blood Thunder King. Blood Thunder King believed that Jian Wushuang came from the outer realm and he also believed that Jian Wushuang had a powerful force backing him up and the leader of the force was an Undying Saint. Jian Wushuang's eyes sank slightly after hearing Blood Thunder King. Well, I can't call the shots for such an important matter, so let me pass on the message to my leader and he will make the decision personally. Blood Thunder King, please hang on a minute. Okay. Blood Thunder King was very patient and he was just waiting by the side. Jian Wushuang pretended to take out a token and then feigned to look like he was communicating with someone else. Blood Thunder King could not see what Jian Wushuang was doing. He thought Jian Wushuang was talking to his leader. After a while, Jian Wushuang withdrew the token. Blood Thunder King, my leader had agreed to join hands with you and agreed that Sword Alliance will help you to gain control over Crimson Stone Fort, but under one condition, said Jian Wushuang. What is it? Blood Thunder King peered at Jian Wushuang. What my leader values is the many resources possessed by Danyang Holy Domain. Therefore, after the end of the battle, Crimson Stone Fort that will be under your control must completely surrender to him and he shall enjoy 80% of the various resources in Danyang Holy Domain when you get the remaining 20%, said Jian Wushuang. He wants 80%? Blood Thunder King's pupils shrank, he gritted his teeth and nodded. All right. In addition, my leader warns that you'd better not fool him. If you dare to have any other thoughts, he will personally come to Danyang Holy Domain and your fate will be miserable, warned Jian Wushuang. That's for sure. Blood Thunder King smiled awkwardly. In that case, Blood Thunder King, I wish us happy working together. Jian Wushuang raised the wine glass on the table and smiled slightly. Okay. Blood Thunder King drank a large glass of wine with Jian Wushuang. Then Blood Thunder King got up and prepared to go. Alliance Master Su Han, this is my message token. The great change in Crimson Stone Fort should happen anytime soon and I will use this message token to send you a message at that time. Blood Thunder King handed his message token to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang nodded after he received the message token and Blood Thunder King quickly left. Unexpectedly, Blood Thunder King came to me and offered to join hands with me. This is really interesting. Jian Wushuang looked at the message token in his hand, his expression was rather weird. Alliance Master Su Han, do you think that Blood Thunder King really wants to join hands with you? Strange Old Tong who was next to Jian Wushuang looked around. I don't know. Jian Wushuang shook his head, however whether he is sincere or not, it has nothing to do with me. After all, I never thought of joining hands with him. Strange Old Tong raised his eyebrows and he knew what was on Jiang Wushuang's mind immediately. In a void in the distance outside Sword Alliance's lair, Blood Thunder King, who was once again shrouded in the blood-colored robe, looked extremely mysterious. He pulled to a stop abruptly. Come out. Blood Thunder King cried softly. Buzz. A ray of light condensed in the void in front of him and soon a figure in a black robe emerged. The old man in a black robe looked like he was intractable. He had very big eyes. As soon as he appeared, he immediately looked at Blood Thunder King. What is the result? Did Su Han agree? Yes. Blood Thunder King nodded. Not only did he agree, but he also admitted that he came from the outer realm and there is indeed an undying saint backing him up. That's for sure. Otherwise, Sword Alliance cannot rise so fast. The question now is that I don't know which outer realm he is from. Did Su Han tell you just now? The black robe old man asked. No. Blood Thunder King shook his head. However, 9 realms of Golden Crow probably has Dragon Phoenix Pavilion and Star Picking Pavilion and very few large forces with undying saints. For those who are near Danyang Holy Domain and are willing to get involved with what's going on in Danyang Holy Domain, you should know more about who they are apart from you Heavenly Modest Palace. Blood Thunder King looked at the old man in a black robe. He was very clear about the identity of the old man in a black robe. The old man came from the outer realm, from a force called the Heavenly Modest Palace. Heavenly Modest Palace had a great reputation in 9 realms of Golden Crow and they had a powerful undying saint sitting behind it. The old man in a black robe came to Danyang Holy Domain a long time ago and after working hard for a long period of time, he reached an agreement with Blood Thunder King. Therefore Blood Thunder King, just like what Jian Wushuang believed, was there to gain Jian Wushuang's trust. Blood Thunder King had never thought of joining forces with Sword Alliance, he just wanted to use Sword Alliance. As for the undying saint backing Jian Wushuang up, he was not afraid at all. After all, Blood Thunder King also has an undying saint behind him. I don't care who is supporting Sword Alliance. In short, Heavenly Modest Palace has been working hard in Danyang Holy Domain for so long. I would never allow someone else to reap what I have sowed. Well, first form allies with Sword Alliance and use him to destroy the Tuyin Sewer and Yunshan factions. Thereafter we will try a way to destroy Sword Alliance, said the old man in a black robe coldly. Chapter 2774. A point of no return. In the Great Hall, the tall and beautiful Yin Sewer stood at the highest area as she excluded extreme pressure. Underneath her, 3 other people were standing there apart from Palace Keeper Si Zhen. Those 3 were Grand Ultimate Gods and they were extremely loyal towards Yin Sewer. They were people she trusted the most. Has the news been confirmed? Yin Sewer looked downwards. An elder with white hair among them nodded politely. Yes, although there's no conclusion yet, it is a fact that Yunshan had already started contacting the people from that side. Humph, this old B** starred. Yin Sewer's facial expression turned into a strict one. There's no other choice, we have to immediately take action. Palace Keeper Si Zhen and the 3 others also had darkened expressions on their faces. They knew about Yin Sewer's helplessness and could also understand her decision. Make your preparations. We will take action in 10 days. Yin Sewer said. 10 days. Palace Keeper Si Zhen and the others nodded in seriousness. After some time, the 3 others left continuously and only Palace Keeper Si Zhen was left standing there. Fort Master, should we inform Jian Yi about this right now so that he and his Sword Alliance can make the preparations? Palace Keeper Si Zhen said. We should inform him, but you don't need to do it this time. I will personally talk to him. Insuer said. All right. Palace Keeper Sijin nodded and also left. Only Insuer was left in the large hall. With a flip of her delicate hand, Insuer took a token out and started communication. Jian Wushuang, who was sitting at the stone table in Sword Alliance's garden, immediately responded. The fort master has personally contacted me. This is really rare. Jian Wushuang smiled playfully. Normally, his communication with Insuer would go through Palace Keeper Sijin, but Insuer had directly contacted him this time. Jian, there's something that I need to personally tell you. Insuer sounded extremely serious. You sound so serious. Do you plan to take action now? Jian Wushuang's expression slightly changed. Yes. I've given my orders. My people will take action 10 days later, and our aim is Yunshan's faction. Insuer said. 10 days? Isn't that too soon? Are you extremely well prepared? Jian Wushuang frowned. No. Insuer shook her head. But we are at a point of no return. What do you mean? Jian Wushuang was really puzzled this time. Although there was a lot going on in the Crimson Stone Fort right now and every faction was preparing themselves with all they had. However, Insuer obviously had the upper hand as she had the support of a huge amount of resources. Apart from that, she was greatly burdened. It did not matter if she did not take action, she had to be completely prepared once she took action. However, it seemed irrational for her to proactively take action right now without complete preparation. Couple of days ago, my people received news that the old man Yunshan seemed to have received some news that the power I hold right now is much stronger than his, so he's looking for ways to search for external help. Within these couple of days, Yunshan has already gained contact with Nanwu Palace. Insuer said. Nanwu Palace? Jian Wushuang's facial expression slightly changed. Nanwu Palace was only behind the Crimson Stone Fort among the pinnacle forces in the Danyang continent. Nanwu Palace Master was even the publicly recognized expert in the Danyang continent. If Yunshan's faction connected with Nanwu Palace and worked together, Insuer's faction would be placed in a passive position. Have they formed an alliance? Jian Wushuang asked. Not at this moment, but Yunshan shows obvious signs about it. If I continue to wait, he might really join forces with Nanwu Palace and I wouldn't be the one handling them later on, they will be the ones working together to wipe me out. Hence, I need to take action now and completely wipe out Yunshan's faction earlier on. Insuer said. How confident are you to go against Yunshan's faction based on your accumulated strength? Jian Wushuang asked. 100%, Insuer replied neatly. Although Yunshan had accumulated a lot of strength throughout recent years, I've accumulated more strength than him. Apart from that, I've obtained a huge amount of resources because of you and I've won over many helpers with these resources. If no other forces interrupt us right now, Yunshan's faction would not be our opponent if only both our factions go to battle. You're so confident? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. He had no idea that Insuer would be so capable and have secretly accumulated so much power. At the same time, he understood why Yunshan would think of ways to contact the Nanwu Palace. Yunshan must have realized that Insuer was too powerful and was trying his best to search for helpers as his faction was not capable of withstanding Insuer. He was also driven insane by Insuer and went to Nanwu Palace because he had no other way. However, although my faction is completely confident in defeating Yunshan's faction, there's another large faction in the Crimson Stone Fort and that is the Blood Thunder King's faction. I'm not capable of facing both parties at the same time, hence. 10 days later, I need your Sword Alliance to help me stop the Blood Thunder King's faction. That shouldn't be a problem, right? Insuer said. Although the Blood Thunder King's faction have quite a number of Grand Ultimate Gods, they don't have the support of any peak Grand Ultimate God. With our Sword Alliance's current strength, we can handle them. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. However, Blood Thunder King isn't your only threat this time, right? Based on what I know, Nanwu Palace, Life and Death Tower, Divine Demon Sect and the Dongfang clan. These four pinnacle forces had been fixated on your Crimson Stone Fort since a long time ago. Especially recent days, our Sword Alliance has been stirring things up throughout these few decades in order to pressure these pinnacle forces. However, these pinnacle forces had been tolerating things and they obviously do not want to offend our Sword Alliance. Instead, they had been focusing all their attention on your Crimson Stone Fort. Once anything happens on your Crimson Stone Fort, these pinnacle forces will definitely take action right away. These are four pinnacle forces. Even if the Divine Demon Sect wouldn't take action because they are badly compromised, the three other pinnacle forces would still be extremely strong if they worked together. How can you withstand them if they grab the opportunity when you are in a fight with the Yunshan faction and both parties are badly wounded? Yin Suer, who was on the other side of the token, was silent for some time after Jian Wushuang spoke. Moments later, Yin Suer spoke once again. If the three pinnacle forces, Nanwu Palace, Life and Death Tower and Dongfang Clan came attacking when I'm battling for my life with Yunshan, both of us would not be able to withstand them. This is also why I'm not fully prepared. That is why my current plan is to carry out a sudden attack 10 days later, when Yunshan is having a secret meeting with the experts under his leadership. I plan to try my best to defeat all the experts in Yunshan's faction within the shortest period of time with absolute strength. The best way is to leave no time for those pinnacle forces to react. Chapter 2775. Depart? You want to have a quick battle? Jian Wushuang frowned. Is that possible? I have to do the impossible as I do not have other choices. Yin Suer said in a low voice. Yunshan is already exchanging terms with Nanwu Palace at this moment and they haven't come to an agreement because none of them wants to make a concession. Once either the Nanwu Palace or Yunshan makes a slight concession, they would form an alliance and I would not have any chances. Although what I'm going to do seems reckless, there's at least some possibility of success. As long as we are speedy enough to defeat Yunshan's faction before the experts from Nanwu Palace, Life and Death Tower and Dongfang Clan arrive, we would manage to withstand them with the help of your Sword Alliance, even if my faction isn't in its peak stage. If we are able to withstand that round of attack, we can think of ways to split up those three pinnacle forces next. After all, they have internal conflicts and we would have lots of opportunities to pinpoint them by then. Jian Wushuang was secretly lamenting when he heard what Yin Suer said. He was able to see that Yin Suer had been forced to a point of no return or she would not have proactively taken action against Yunshan's faction when she was not completely prepared. As for her decision right now, Jian Wushuang had to admit that this might be her last chance even if it was a dangerous one. Jian Wushuang agreed to Yin Suer's decision when he stood in her shoes. I understand it. Don't worry, Fort Master. My Sword Alliance will use everything we have to help you in 10 days. Jian Wushuang said seriously. Thank you, Mr. Jian Yi. Yin Suer softened her voice. No matter what the ending of this battle is, you've done everything you should have. Even if my faction lost in the end, I'm only grateful towards Mr. Jian Yi and there would not be a hint of dissatisfaction. By then, Mr. Jian Yi can think of ways to escape and ignore what happens to my Crimson Stone Fort. I know I'm not stupid. Jian Wushuang smiled slightly. The two of them stopped their communication after that. She plans to take action 10 days later? Jian Wushuang sat in the garden by himself as he tapped his finger against the stone table with an extremely serious expression on his face. Yin Suer's decision to carry out the raid 10 days later was really a forced decision and the risks were extremely huge. They were not hugely certain even if she had her full support. Jian Wushuang had once made a deal with Crimson Stone Saint and he would definitely do his best full-hearted since he was entrusted by others on this matter. He also hoped that Yin Suer managed to obtain what she wanted in this battle. However, he was unable to predict the ending. No matter what, I've tried my best and everything would come down to Yin Suer's fate to see if we survive this. Jian Wushuang mumbled to himself. He had already reached the limit of what he could do and he had a clear conscience that he was worthy of the Fengtian scroll given to him by the Crimson Stone Saint. 10 days passed by in the blink of an eye. In a grand hall of the Sword Alliance, Jian Wushuang sat on the grand throne at the highest position while Xiao Tiexin stood obediently beside him. Beneath the hall, several experts were standing there. The sloppy old man with messy hair, Old Tong, narrowed his eyes as he stood in front of everybody. However, he still hid his divine power and unless he met a peak grand ultimate god like him, nobody would notice that he had already broken through even though his ways of hiding his power were not very strong. For example, when Blood Thunder King came visiting previously, Old Tong stood beside but Blood Thunder King did not realize that Old Tong had already broken through into a peak grand ultimate god. There were 6 other people behind Old Tong. Among these 6 people, there was one older and one younger person apart from Grand Ultimate God Juexan Old Snake, and Yin Lan Junju. They were also Grand Ultimate Gods and were members of the Elder Group in the Sword Alliance. Couple of decades ago, the entire Danyang continent was shocked when news about the Sword Alliance defeating the Divine Demon Sect was spreaded out. The Sword Alliance's prestige had achieved a shocking high within that period of time. Within these couple of decades, the Sword Alliance tried its best in developing and attracted experts with a huge number of resources and cost. These 2 Grand Ultimate Gods were experts who accepted their invitation. Among these 2 people, One of them is a high-level Grand Ultimate God while the other is only a primary-level Grand Ultimate God. The reason they accepted the invitation from the Sword Alliance was not only because of the sufficient pay the Sword Alliance provided, the most important point was that these two people had great grudges against the Divine Demon sect. They promised because they felt that they had been avenged when they saw how the Sword Alliance defeated the Divine Demon sect in a face-to-face battle and caused the Divine Demon sect to be badly wounded. The addition of these two people had once again enriched the Sword Alliance's higher-level combat power. Right now, these Grand Ultimate Gods followed Jian Wushuang's orders and were waiting in silence. They were able to see that Jian Wushuang was definitely planning something huge for gathering all of them over at this moment. However, Jian Wushuang did not say what they were doing and they had no idea either. In the highest throne, Jian Wushuang was also waiting there with his eyes closed. After waiting for around half an hour, Yin Suer had finally sent a message. Jian Yi, we've started our journey and we will be at Bane City within an hour. Yin Suer said. Bane City? That is where the battlefield will be? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes, Yun Shan is having a discussion with the experts under his leadership in Bane City. We shall carry out a sudden raid once we arrive there and there will be a large movement by then. The experts of different forces will be immediately alarmed, especially Blood Thunder King. He is one of our Crimson Stone Fort's higher management and he's very familiar with some of our spatial passages. Once a huge battle happens in Bane City, he would be able to rush over speedily via the spatial passages. Your Sword Alliance needs to think of a way to stop him. Yin Suer said. Understood. I will start my journey now. Jian Wushuang interrupted the communication and looked towards the Grand Ultimate Gods below him. Old Snake, stay and take care of our base. Jian Wushuang ordered. Yes, Master. Old Snake nodded without any complaints. The others shall leave with me right now. With the wave of Jian Wushuang's hands, Old Tong, Grand Ultimate God Zhu Xan, and Ing Lan Junju and two other Grand Ultimate Gods that recently joined the Sword Alliance immediately started their journey under Jian Wushuang's lead. They had been traveling via some wormholes throughout the entire journey and had arrived in a void near to Bane City within a short amount of time. The Bane City is located not far from here and that place has always been the Crimson Stone Fort's territory. Alliance Master Suhan, what are we doing here? Grand Ultimate God Zhu Xan asked. Stop with the questions as you will know when it's time. Jian Wushuang only smiled indifferently and did not make much explanation. Chapter 2776. The beginning of the Great Battle. The same time when Jian Wushuang and the others arrived at the Ou Thangserts of Bane City. Many figures were standing in another void. These figures were exuding extremely strong divine power. Their divine power obviously meant that they had achieved the level of Grand Ultimate God. However, the crucial part was that there were more than 20 figures standing in this void and that meant that there were more than 20 Grand Ultimate Gods. It had to be known that there were many factions in the Crimson Stone Fort and Blood Thunder King's faction was publicly known for having the most Grand Ultimate Gods. However, they also only had around a dozen of them. Standing in front of these 20 over Grand Ultimate Gods were the extremely beautiful yet strict Yin Suer. She looked at the huge city in front of her with a cold look in her eyes. It's almost time, let's take action right away. Yin Suer had a serious expression on her face. With the wave of her hand, the 20 over Grand Ultimate Gods behind her immediately started moving. These 20 over Grand Ultimate Gods instantly turned into 20 over streams of light while Yin Suer also went skimming out. They appeared in the void on top of Bane City within the blink of an eye. Rumble. One after another, huge coercive forces directly came suppressing down. Yun Shan and the others who were hiding in a secret chamber located in Bane City were instantly alerted. Then, a large number of people directly rose up. Yin Suer. A strict glance was released from the eyes of a short elder with young features and old man's hair. His glance came exploding towards Yin Suer like two lightning bolts. The divine power that belonged to a peak Grand Ultimate God was also released from his body. This short elder was the person controlling another large faction in the Crimson Stone Fort, Yun Shan. Are you finally taking action? Yun Shan had a cold look in his eyes. Yun Shan, we've been fighting for so many years and we should end it today. Yin Suer's voice could be heard in the entire Bane City. Everybody kill? Bomb. 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 More than 20 over Grand Ultimate Gods behind Yin Suer immediately took action and went rushing down like extremely hungry beasts. Block their way. Yun Shan also yelled out with a low voice and around a dozen Grand Ultimate Gods around him also came rushing forward fiercely with overwhelming aura. A total of almost 40 Grand Ultimate Gods from both sides instantaneously started fighting one another. The huge battle completely broke out. It started. Jin Wushuang and the others stood in the void outside of Bane City. Although they were some distance away, they were still able to clearly see what was happening in the city and felt the waves of scary hums exploding in the city at the same time. Behind Jin Wushuang, Old Tong, Grand Ultimate God Ju Xan, and Ying and Lan Junju also had different expressions on their faces. Crimson Stone Fort, it's a fight between two of their strongest factions. That is the Crimson Stone Fort Master Yin Suer, while the other is the Crimson Stone Fort's first elder Yin Shan. Rumors state that these two have been fighting for many years and have gone through all sorts of fights since the falling of the Crimson Stone Saint. Are they finally ending things now? There are so many Grand Ultimate Gods. Didn't they say that these two factions of the Crimson Stone Fort only have around 7 to 8 Grand Ultimate Gods? Even Blood Thunder King, that has the most Grand Ultimate Gods, have around a dozen only. However, why? Why are there so many here? There should be around a total of 40 Grand Ultimate Gods here, right? This is the first time I've seen a battle between so many Grand Ultimate Gods. Old Tong and the others secretly sighed. Grand Ultimate Gods were definitely the strongest experts in the Danyang continent. Under normal circumstances, one could easily build a first-class force in the Danyang continent with 2 to 3 Grand Ultimate Gods, while pinnacle forces had around 12 of them. There were around 40 of them here. In the Danyang Holy Domain, only the Crimson Stone Fort was capable of this. Even Jin Wushuang had to gasp with admiration that a lean camel was still bigger than a horse. It looks like Yin Suer has taken over the other 4 smaller factions in the Crimson Stone Fort. Those small factions have a couple of Grand Ultimate Gods and they all listen to her right now. She really has some strong ways. Jin Wushuang mumbled. He had to admit that Yin Suer really had some tricks up her sleeves, or it would be impossible for her to support the Crimson Stone Fort alone for so many years. There were currently a total of 20 over Grand Ultimate Gods under Yin Suer's lead. All of them were much stronger in both volume and quality, even their higher level combat power. In the void located in the middle of Bane City, Yin Suer was having a combat with Yun Shan, and the two of them were pushing their power to the limit. However, Jin Wushuang could obviously see that Yin Suer definitely had the upper hand in this battle. It could be said that Yin Suer's side had an absolute upper hand in both higher level combat power and the fights between the Grand Ultimate Gods. She definitely has an advantage, and it's quite a huge one. However, it would be difficult to completely defeat Yun Shan's faction or kill Yun Shan in a short period of time based on this advantage alone. The other forces must have received news now that this battle has exploded, and they must be rushing over right now. Jin Wushuang thought to himself. As he was thinking about this, the token given by Blood Thunder King and stored in his interspatial ring immediately reacted. Alliance Master Su Han, Yin Suer has already taken action. Please hurry to Bane City. There was a hint of anxiety in Blood Thunder King's voice. Blood Thunder King obviously did not expect Yin Suer to take action so speedily, as she directly found a chance to carry out a sudden raid. Apart from that, she did such a good job in keeping it a secret that no information was leaked previously. I've already received news and am rushing my way over. I will be there momentarily. Jin Wushuang purposely sent a message. Moments later, he took the token up again. Blood Thunder King, I've already rushed over to the void outside Bane City and am in this direction. Jin Wushuang informed Blood Thunder King of his location before glancing at Old Tong. Old Tong, Blood Thunder King is coming in a short while. In order to be safe, hide yourself. You can take action after I've sent you a message. Jin Wushuang said. All right. Old Tong nodded and went skimming towards the surrounding void by himself. Moments later, more than a dozen figures came rushing over. A total of 16 people arrived, and every one of them had strong divine power. They were all in the Grand Ultimate God level, but they were only primary level and high-level Grand Ultimate Gods. There were no peak Grand Ultimate Gods among them. Alliance Master Su Han, you travel so speedily. A smile immediately appeared on Blood Thunder King's face when he saw Jin Wushuang. Coincidentally, there's a spatial passage located in the territory belonging to my Sword Alliance that connects to the void nearby to Bane City. That is why I arrived sooner. Jin Wushuang said. I see. Blood Thunder King raised his eyebrows before turning his attention to the Grand Ultimate Gods behind Jin Wushuang. Why aren't Old Tong and Old Snake here? Blood Thunder King asked in surprise. My Sword Alliance has been continuously expanding recently, and we've attracted many strong opponents. I have to keep some power in the Sword Alliance to attend to them during this mission. I hope that you can understand. Jin Wushuang said. Chapter 2777. Took action. The Sword Alliance is such a big household, I'm sure nothing can be taken lightly. Blood Thunder King smiled without much care. I did not expect Yin Sure to take such speedy actions, and her means are really great. I'm afraid that Yun Shan might fall here in this battle. Jian Wushuang looked at the battlefield far away and slightly nodded. It was true that Yin Suer obviously had the upper hand in this battle between two parties, and it was a great upper hand. Yun Shan's faction seemed to be in the fight under suppression. However, it would still take some time if Yin Suer's side wanted to completely defeat Yin Shan's faction, and she definitely needed to pay a certain price. We shall wait here, and after both factions have been badly wounded from the fight, we shall go out to clean up the messy situation. Blood Thunder King said. I understand. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. Outside of Bane City, the Sword Alliance controlled by Jian Wushuang and Blood Thunder King's faction stood in the void as they looked on silently. They looked on as Yin Suer and Yun Shan's factions fought. The battle got increasingly intense and crazy. The crazy fight between almost 40 Grand Ultimate Gods caused a shocking amount of movement. Under such a large scale of crazy fight, these Grand Ultimate Gods were unable to completely protect their own lives. Within mere moments, bomb. The divine body of an elder in green robe was directly penetrated and his life was instantly ended. Since the battle started, the first fallen Grand Ultimate God had appeared. It's Grand Ultimate God Bing Yu from Yun Shan's faction. He's really unlucky to be the first one to die. He's really unlucky as he's only a usual primary level Grand Ultimate God, but he had to face two masters in the same level and was even secretly attacked by a high-level Grand Ultimate God from the fight beside. It seems difficult to stay alive under such circumstances. It's not completely because of luck. There's quite a huge difference between the strength of both sides. The experts under Blood Thunder King's lead were hiding in the void outside Bane City, and they were secretly sighing about the situation. The elder in green robes was the first one to die. It was impossible for him to be the only fallen expert in such an intense and crazy battle. Following that, the experts died in the battle one after another. Some of them were from Yun Shan's faction, and there were also others from Yin Suer's faction. However, due to the difference between their strength, most of the experts who died were from Yun Shan's faction. Soon there were 10 experts who died in the battle, and among them, 7 of them were from Yun Shan's faction. It had to be understood that the number of Grand Ultimate Gods from Yun Shan's faction were much lesser compared to Yin Suer's faction. Now that they had lost 7 of them, they did not have much Grand Ultimate Gods left, and their disadvantage in the battle grew. Yun Shan's faction can't hold it much longer. There has originally been a huge difference between their combat power. Now that Yun Shan's faction has lost 7 Grand Ultimate Gods while Yin Suer's faction only lost 3, the difference is even much more obvious. Yun Shan is going to be defeated after all. The experts under Blood Thunder King's lead were still discussing among themselves. Blood Thunder King, when shall we take action? Jian Wushuang looked towards Blood Thunder King. Be patient and wait a little longer. Let them fight for a longer period of time. Blood Thunder King's eyes were sparkling. Jian Wushuang was naturally unfazed as Yin Suer was the one with the upper hand right now. After some time, the experts from both parties were already in a terrible situation from the fight, especially those from Yun Shan's faction. Half of the originally more than a dozen Grand Ultimate Gods had fallen, and the remaining Grand Ultimate Gods were also badly wounded. Even Yun Shan himself, bomb. Following a horrendous hum that could be heard throughout the entire battlefield, Yun Shan's figure went bursting outwards in a battered manner. At this moment, Yun Shan's face was extremely pale with blood at the corners of his mouth. His divine power was obviously weakened compared to how he was previously. Yun Shan was obviously heavily wounded. Yun Shan, you are definitely losing this battle. Yin Suer had a great amount of divine power surging through her body. She stood there with her arrogant figure and looked down at everything like a divine goddess. In this one-to-one fight between Yin Suer and Yun Shan, it was obvious that Yin Suer was stronger. Yun Shan, who was already badly wounded, stood there as he looked at his surroundings. The Grand Ultimate Gods under his lead had extremely darkened expressions. He definitely lost in this battle, and it was a terrible loss. The strength Yin Suer accumulated had completely surpassed him. Attack. Yin Suer said in a cold voice as she wanted to carry out another attack. The Grand Ultimate Gods behind her had extremely high will to kill in their eyes as they once again took action. As for the Grand Ultimate Gods from Yun Shan's faction, they looked extremely pale, but an unprecedented craziness could be seen in their eyes. Fight them with all you have. Kill. Kill. The people in the battle had gone completely crazy. In the void outside of Bane City, Jian Wushuang and Blood Thunder King, who was standing next to him, saw everything that happened in Bane City's battlefield. It's almost time for us to take action. Blood Thunder King smiled coldly. Are we taking action now? Jian Wushuang glanced at Blood Thunder King who was beside him. Between these two factions, shall we take action towards Yin Suer's faction first or Yunshan's faction? Or should we take action against both factions at the same time? We should pulverize an already defeated enemy first. We should wipe out the old man Yunshan first before taking action against Yin Suer. Blood Thunder King said. Take action against Yunshan first? Jian Wushuang slightly frowned. Right now, both Yin Suer and Yunshan's factions had been badly wounded as they suffered huge losses. Among them, Yunshan was completely routed. If they take action at this moment, they should do it towards Yin Suer first, as the right thing to do was to weaken the combat power of Yin Suer's faction. However, Blood Thunder King chose to take action against Yunshan first to completely defeat or kill him on the spot so that he was left with no options out before taking action against Yin Suer. Blood Thunder King was so confident in their side's strength? Let's take action. Blood Thunder King did not explain too much and only said this. Then, the dozen over grand ultimate gods behind him moved at the same time under his personal lead. Jian Wushuang also did not linger. With a wave of his hand, a gold-armored corpse pupper, a silver-armored corpse puppet and two bronze-armored corpse puppets appeared in front of him at the same time. After that, Jian Wushuang went skimming speedily towards Bane City as he led these corpse puppets together with grand ultimate god Juexan and the others. In Bane City, both Yin Suer and Yunshan's forces were still in a heated fight. Suddenly, a huge amount of figures came skimming over from the surrounding void. There were lots of experts as Blood Thunder King's faction alone had 16 grand ultimate gods. Together with the 6 grand ultimate gods, including Jian Wushuang from Sword Alliance and 4 corpse puppets, there were a total of 26 experts from the grand ultimate god level. They directly came attacking in a loud and horrifying manner. Experts from both factions fighting in the battlefield immediately noticed this. That is, Blood Thunder King? Chapter 2778, Blood Thunder King's Glee. It's Blood Thunder King and his faction's experts. There are also some people who are from the Sword Alliance. Sword Alliance? When did Blood Thunder King get together with the Sword Alliance? The experts fighting from the two major factions were deeply surprised. Yunshan and Yin Suer noticed the arrival of Jian Wushuang and the others and were puzzled. Especially Yin Suer, she gave a deep look at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang, Blood Thunder King, and the others who suddenly arrived on the battlefield from the void nearby began attacking and killing the experts from Yunshan's faction. *T. Damn it. Blood Thunder King. The Grand Ultimate Gods in Yunshan's camp were frightened. They were already at an absolute disadvantage, on the verge of defeat, and had been fighting hard all the time. Blood Thunder King and the Sword Alliance joining in the attack and targeting them all of a sudden did not do them any good. How were they going to resist the fierce attack? Haha, go to hell. Blood Thunder King's eyes turned scarlet as he stared at a high-level Grand Ultimate God in Yunshan's camp and immediately displayed his masterstroke. The 15 Grand Ultimate Gods under Blood Thunder King's command, including those from the Sword Alliance and their 4 corpse puppets, did not hold back as all of them attacked and killed mercilessly. The miserable Grand Ultimate Gods in Yunshan's camp received a devastating blow. Almost all of the Grand Ultimate Gods were killed in an instant. In the end, only 4 of them managed to escape from the waves of attacks and fled to the distant void in distress. Among the 4 who survived by luck were Yunshan and 3 other high-level Grand Ultimate Gods. There were more than a dozen Grand Ultimate Gods in Yunshan's camp when Yunshan and Yin Suer faced off against each other, but only 4 of them survived. The 4 who survived were seriously injured and unable to recover their combat power to its peak in a short period. Yunshan's faction was defeated with no chance of making a comeback. Blood Thunder King. Yunshan's infuriated voice echoed in the sky with his eyes seeming to be discharging flames of fury as he stared at Blood Thunder King. Blood Thunder King laughed. Haha, Yunshan. Are you surprised? You and Yin Suer have been fighting all these years over the full control of Crimson Stone Fort, but both of you have never considered me as equal from the beginning to the end. I bet you didn't expect me to win this hand? Yunshan's complexion sank and turned to look at Jian Wushuang. Sword Alliance. You colluded with the Sword Alliance. Collusion? Yunshan, don't you think that's a bit harsh? There's no enmity between Crimson Stone Fort and the Sword Alliance, so I only asked Alliance Master Su Han to come forward and do me a little favor. Why do you think it's a collusion? Blood Thunder King laughed mockingly before instantly setting his gaze on Yin Suer and the others. Yunshan's faction is now crippled. We don't need to care too much about them. Although Yin Suer's faction still possessed certain combat power, they are a far cry from their peak state. Alliance Master Su Han, We are much stronger than Yin Suer's faction once we join hands. We'll win this battle. Blood Thunder King wore an absolute confidence look on his face and was pleased. Even though Yun Shan's faction suffered the most in the recent war, Yin Suer's faction was not spared either, as several of their Grand Ultimate Gods had fallen. As for the Grand Ultimate Gods who survived, they suffered a certain degree of injuries. The combined combat power of Blood Thunder King and the Sword Alliance was superior to that of Yin Suer's faction under such circumstances. The experts in Yin Suer's camp pulled a long face after hearing Blood Thunder King's claim. The appearance of Blood Thunder King and the Sword Alliance joined hands after their fierce fight with Yun Shan's faction was giving them a lot of pressure. Of course, that was also because they knew nothing about what was going on. Yin Suer and Palace Keeper Si Jin remained calm as they knew the truth. Blood Thunder King, don't you think it's too early to be this happy? We haven't even fought yet, how do you foresee the result? Yin Suer jeered coldly. Blood Thunder King smiled. Haha, matters have gotten up to this stage, Yin Suer. Why are you still struggling? They'll fulfill your wish if you don't want to admit defeat yet. Alliance Master Su Han, I heard your domain oppression methods are very sophisticated and played a big role during the Sword Alliance's fight with the Divine Demon Sect. Will I be fortunate enough to see that today? Of course you are. Jian Wushuang smiled as he spoke to Blood Thunder King as though they had been friends for many years. An ancient bronze mirror emerged from Jian Wushuang's body after that, and a large expanse of golden light dispersed from the ancient bronze mirror, filling the entire battlefield and even the entire void. In addition, a large amount of golden divine power had begun to condense crazily behind him. A large amount of golden divine power condensed. In the blink of an eye, a 10,000-foot tall golden emperor appeared behind Jian Wushuang. The golden emperor looked majestic while overlooking the world. As soon as the golden emperor took shape, Jian Wushuang pointed a single finger and a vast golden divine ocean power rushed out frantically. Soon, a huge golden prison took shape that covered the entire battlefield, shrouding all the experts on the battlefield. In addition, a layer of dark golden armor formed on the surface of Jian Wushuang's body. The dark golden armor was 9 Sparkle Star Armor's precious armor. The vast star armor domain emerged. Next, sword intent started rising to the sky as Jian Wushuang's 100,000 miles perfect sword world was displayed. Golden light domain, prison of punishment, star armor domain, sword world. 4 oppression methods were displayed at the same time. At that instance, many experts on the battlefield could already feel Jian Wushuang's various oppression methods displayed. Although Jian Wushuang had not fully put his domain oppressions methods to use, those grand ultimate gods could already feel its greatness. Jian Wushuang began to secretly send messages while those 4 oppression domains were forming. Zhu Xen and Ing. Jian Wushuang sent messages to several grand ultimate gods under his command. I'll do my best to oppress the domain later. When the time comes, you shall do this. Jian Wushuang quickly explained his plans in the messages. After receiving a message from Jian Wushuang and knowing Jian Wushuang's real intentions, Zhu Xian and Ing and Lan Junju were surprised. Chapter 2779. What are you doing, Alliance Master Su Han? Alliance Master Su Han. Zhu Xen and Ing and Lan Junju looked at Alliance Master Su Han in amazement but kept a straight face. Alliance Master Su Han, your domain oppression methods look extraordinary. I really look forward to feeling the power of this domain oppression methods, said Blood Thunder King with a smile next to Jian Wushuang. Don't worry, you'll experience it very soon. Jian Wushuang smiled while his right hand slowly stretched out. Be careful. Alliance Master Su Han's domain oppression methods are great such that even peak Grand Ultimate God strength is suppressed. We have to be vigilant. There was a commotion among the Grand Ultimate Gods from Yin Suer's faction, with all of them waiting intently and preparing to contend with the domain oppression methods Jian Wushuang displayed. Blood Thunder King and those Grand Ultimate Gods under his command sneered at them while looking forward to Jian Wushuang using his domain oppression methods to suppress all the Grand Ultimate Gods from Yin Suer's faction. They were waiting to take advantage of the situation and cause the greatest damage to Yin Suer's faction. Jian Wushuang finally straightened his right arm, but his palm suddenly flipped around. Domain oppression. Rumbling, the Golden Light domain, Prison of Punishment, Star Armor domain, and Sword World superimposed as its terrifying power instantly came into effect. The well-prepared Grand Ultimate Gods from Yin Suer's faction were puzzled when Jian Wushuang exercised his domain oppression methods, as they did not feel the slightest bit of oppression at all. On the other hand, Blood Thunder King and those Grand Ultimate God experts under his command felt the oppression instead. They were sneering at their opponents and waiting for a good show. However, they were the ones who immediately felt the suppression by the 4 superimposed domain oppression methods. Those grand ultimate gods including Blood Thunder King felt as though a mighty mountain was on top of them. The 16 of them, which were either primary level or high-level grand ultimate gods, felt their overall strength had instantly reduced by about 30 to 40%. Their strength had diminished all of a sudden. Alliance Master Su-Han, what are you doing? Blood Thunder King was horrified. He was looking forward to Jian Wushuang's domain oppression methods as he and Jian Wushuang were supposed to be in the same camp. However, why were he and his people being suppressed instead? Jian Wushuang merely smiled coldly when he heard Blood Thunder King's shriek as his right hand instantly pointed toward Blood Thunder King's direction. Bus. The power of space-time law instantly swept and drifted across. A finger-pointing heavenly technique. Blood Thunder King alone was being targeted by that method. Attack. Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with murderous intent. Those who were already ready to go behind him such as Zhu Xin and Ing and Lan Junju as well as the gold-armored corpse puppet, silver-armored corpse puppet, and 2 bronze-armored corpse puppets instantly began their attack with the intentions to kill. Those corpse puppets were refined by Jian Wushuang and he could command them just by using his mind power. Zhu Xin and Ing and Lan Junju had also been informed by Jian Wushuang beforehand, so they were not surprised to see Jian Wushuang's behavior. They began killing Blood Thunder King and the others next to them. Blood Thunder King and the other 16 Grand Ultimate Gods were still recovering from their shock after encountering the sudden change and betrayal, yet had to face the imminent fierce attacks. *T. Sword Alliance, you bastard. The Sword Alliance is our enemy. The Grand Ultimate Gods under Blood Thunder King's command were frightened. All of them thought the Sword Alliance was an ally recruited by Blood Thunder King, which they were quite happy about it. They might be able to wipe out Yin Suer and Yun Shan's factions in no time with the Sword Alliance's help. However, the situation was reversed to their horror. The Sword Alliance was not a friend but a foe. All of a sudden, they were suppressed by the terrifying domain oppression methods without any preparations. At the same time, they were being attacked by Grand Ultimate God Zhu Xian and the others. They were standing so close to the Sword Alliance experts before, therefore many of those Grand Ultimate Gods under Blood Thunder King's command were unable to resist when Grand Ultimate God Zhu Xian made the sudden attack. Check, 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 check. 5 Grand Ultimate Gods were killed on the spot with 3 Grand Ultimate Gods severely injured. In addition, Jian Wushuang targeted Blood Thunder King. Jian Wushuang used the A-finger-pointing heavenly technique on Blood Thunder King to freeze the spacetime Blood Thunder King was located at. Thereafter, the gold-armored corpse puppet next to Blood Thunder King fired a shot toward Blood Thunder King, who was still in a daze and unable to put up a defense. The gold-armored corpse puppet wielded a large saber which slashed down a horrifying saber light at Blood Thunder King like a thunderbolt that suddenly appeared on a sunny day. Blood Thunder King had not recovered from his senses and naturally did not manage to resist the attack. However, a simple jade slip hidden in his sleeves cracked. An invisible shield immediately appeared in front of Blood Thunder King after the jade slip was broken. Bang! The gold-armored corpse puppet's large saber landed on the shield and produced a loud bang. The shield shook violently and instantly collapsed, but the large saber's power was greatly weakened. The remaining power from the blow was very weak as it landed on Blood Thunder King's divine body after being weakened by the protective armor and could no longer cause any harm toward Blood Thunder King. However, the momentum had sent him flying. Oh, he's not dead? Jian Wushuang was a little surprised. It was a shame that he did not manage to kill Blood Thunder King with that blow. It was definitely a great opportunity to kill Blood Thunder King, who was caught off guard and standing so close together. Jian Wushuang worked seamlessly with the gold-armored corpse puppet, with him performing the A-finger-pointing heavenly technique while the gold-armored corpse puppet used its killer move. They should have been able to kill the Blood Thunder King. However, they never expected Blood Thunder King to have a life-saving method hidden up his sleeves. The jade slip was a life-saving method. Although it was not sophisticated, it did save his life. Fortunately, I have a life-saving method. Blood Thunder King had recovered from the frozen spacetime and concurrently also noticed the jade slip in his sleeves was broken. He had figured out what just happened. He knew he had just been through a life-threatening situation. He then saw 5 figures were slowly falling downward up in the void ahead of him. Those 5 people were his followers who were killed by Jian Wushuang's Grand Ultimate Gods and corpse puppets. Damn it. Blood Thunder King looked extremely gloomy with blood-red eyes like 2 blood-colored thunderbolts as he shot a look at Jian Wushuang. Su-Han. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.